All right. Welcome, everybody. Let's see. Tonight is a single feature for tonight. Before we get into that, though, there's something you're all going to want to know. I know you've been waiting for this. Just saying, how can we get this kind of thing? And here it is. I know you're going to be excited.
Over the years, I've been asked many times, when am I going to launch a product line for my YouTube channel? And I finally got around to it. And this is going to be something I'm going to just mention one time. And one time only. There's not going to be any mention of
drink.
Okay.
I'm done.
So you don't want any Russian vids products, you're saying?
Guys, we should all go start a GoFundMe account. Buy all of his stock and launch it into space. The irony.
Now, my question is: did he get the rights to actually, or did he get a license to actually use "They Live's" poster for his shirts?
Is it possible? Is it possible?
Rudy Piper.
Could it be old enough that it's out of copyright or something like that?
Only if it's 75 years after everybody who was involved in the movie is dead.
Okay, well that's not the case.
Yeah, and because Keith David's still alive. Also, Roddy Piper never dies. He's like the Highlander, okay? As long as you're playing a Duke Nukem game or I am alive, Roddy Piper exists.
All right, so
and I'm all out of gum. Put me in a room with this man.
That movie was a classic, and yet it was pretty bad.
It's a cult classic.
Yes, indeed.
All right, so cool. Me and Cy are going to fight tonight. That's fine. That's cool. Just when I was starting to like you. I've never kicked a pug in the face, but I'm gonna.
Yeah. Murder. Yes.
Now that raises a good question. If you kick in the pug in the face, can you tell?
This is going to be a long and violent night.
There will be no kicking of pugs.
Yeah, what video do you have that you're going to put on after this?
I do not condone the violence to any animals. I just thought it was a funny joke.
Indeed. Well, again, just as exciting as the Russian Vids product line is Dr. Jason Lyle, Astronomy Reveals a 6,000-Year-Old Earth. That's what we have coming up. Pretty damn exciting, don't you think?
Let's do it.
Wait, is he a doctor the same way that Ken Ham is now a doctor?
I think so. I'm not entirely
Well,
sure.
I think Jason Lyle actually has a real live astronomy degree. I don't know what university. It may be from university or something like that. But it's an actual astronomy degree.
Yeah, you sure it's not astrology?
Oh no! Quite a few. There's quite a few astronomers with reasons to believe, and Don DeYoung is an astronomer that goes way back in creationism for decades and that. So yeah, there are some in there. They contribute virtually nothing to our understanding of anything, but they have astronomy degrees. How long is the video?
It is a 1-hour video, a little over an hour.
Yay!
7 o'clock in the morning.
We'll see how it goes. And very good. All right. And Fino, reveals or repeals? Repeals a 6,000-year-old Earth. That would be better, wouldn't it? All right. That being the case, let us get started and see what Dr. Lyle has to say to us.
Calvary Channel of Capital.
Well, it's good to be with you this evening, and I get to speak on my specialty topic of astronomy. That's what I got my doctorate in, and it's what I research at the Institute for Creation Research. We have a number of different researchers there, studying geology and biology and physics and so on.
Sorry,
and
go
I want
ahead.
to show you this evening that astronomy reveals creation, and astronomy is one of those fields that has been used to challenge the Bible. You've heard people say probably that, well, the Bible can't be true because of what we learned about, the Big Bang and astronomy and things like that. But I want to show you that really, when you understand the cosmos, it confirms what the Bible teaches. There are secrets to be revealed in the cosmos that confirm biblical creation. I'm going to cover 5 of these this evening. And you can use these in conversations with people to lead them toward the gospel, really. And that's what we're all about at the Institute for Creation Research. It's not just an academic debate on origins. We specialize in origins, but we want to see people saved, and that's why we do what we do. We want them to have confidence in the Word of God. We're going to see that the Bible's right when it touches on the fact that the glory of God is revealed in the heavens. The Bible is right when it speaks about the basics of astronomy. The Bible's right when it speaks about the age of the universe. The Bible's right when it speaks about the uniqueness of Earth in the universe. The Bible is right when it touches on distant starlight. And so those are the 5 areas I want to touch on this evening. And so let's start with the glory of God being revealed in the heavens. That's something that the Bible teaches us. In Psalm 19:1, the heavens declare the glory of God, the skies proclaim the work of his hands. And there are a number of ways in which the universe displays God's glory, and it really reveals his character. It's quite wonderful. Yeah, I want to concentrate just on 2 because I can't hit all of them, obviously. But I'm going to show you that the size and the beauty of the universe are certainly consistent with the mind of God and not just sort of a chance explosion or rapid expansion or what have you. Let's start with the moon. This will be the smallest thing we look at.
Ooh,
the
good.
moon is about the size of the United States. If you're to put the United States up at the same distance.
Yeah. Okay.
Big time drink on this one.
That's you,
The
Sean.
moon is the smallest object we see? Really?
Well, I think what he was saying here is that it's the smallest thing that we're going to look at. What I take offense to is literally everything he said prior to that. But
No, we've got Mercury, we've got Mars, we've got several large asteroids in the belt, we've got Pluto. So the moon is by far not the smallest thing we see.
no, like the smallest thing that he is planning on us talking about in this presentation.
Yeah,
Give him his rope. Give him his rope.
Okay.
Give him
I mean, yeah.
I'm going to have to go to the shed to give him some more rope.
Oh, I think he's going to supply us with lots of rope.
I'm already on circuit overload. I could yell for an hour about this guy already. His haircut, that rat face smile, his shirt, how it's tucked into the pants, the belt he chose to wear.
That's ad hoc. That's not against his argument. So
I'm not saying he's wrong because of these things. I think that they need to be pointed out. Is all.
He just officially looks like a nerd.
Yeah,
I
would
for
look
that.
way easier than him under the same circumstances.
I'm more interested to see how, given as much rope as he needs, can tie this together. Because bear in mind, we have evidence for the Big Bang versus what he's about to say. So this should be good.
All right.
I am ready.
Let's see what he's got to say here.
As the moon, it would cover about the same area in the sky, just to give you a feel for how big it is. The moon is a wonderful object to observe in a small telescope or even in binoculars. It's just lovely. In a small telescope, especially when it's in the first quarter phase, you can just see the craters and the shadows of the craters. It's stunning. It's really amazing. And we do a number of, I do observing sessions with folks where I show them the moon through telescopes, and it's a lot of fun. Sometimes people will say, well, can you see the flag, that the astronauts put there? And, well, when you consider it's as big as the United States, that's going to be a little tricky. But because we have a spacecraft orbiting the moon and taking high-resolution images of the surface, we can now see where the Apollo astronauts landed. Isn't that interesting? I'll show you this. This is kind of amazing. But this is for real. We've mapped this very, very accurately, very precisely, and you can see there's the Apollo 11 landing site. Remember when they launched off the moon, they left the lower portion of the spacecraft to save fuel. So that leg, spider-like looking structure.
You mean when they faked it? Wake up, sheeple!
That's the lunar module, the lower section of it. And those little dark streaks that you see there, those are the footprints of the astronauts as they walked over to that crater. And
stop
back.
for a minute.
40-year-old footprints.
All right.
There's no
Now this isn't really a drink moment, but it's kind of wondering about where his credentials are, because he seems to take the Bible very literally.
Mm-hmm.
How did we get to the moon if there's a firmament between us?
Like I said, I'm willing to give him as much rope as he possibly needs to make this argument. I want to see if he can actually do it.
You just want to see it all connected. Okay. Although we don't hear a lot about the firmament from like the Ken Hams of the world. There's not much talk of that.
Well, I'm just pointing out that this guy has been spewing about how literally true the Bible is, but he's not discussing the firmament and how did we get to the moon if we got to go through the firmament, which is preventing us to get to the moon.
The moon is clearly inside the dome, bud. Come on. Come on. I mean, that's like basic medieval astronomy. Like, please.
All right. All right, here we go.
You're muted, RJ. RJ, you're muted.
Out.
RJ, unmute. There you go.
I thought he was just making faces.
For him, the Bible, all the Bible is absolutely accurate except for the parts he doesn't think about that aren't.
Absolutely.
Right. I think I pointed that out pretty well.
All right, here we
He's
go.
got to deal with day 4, where the sun and the moon and the stars are made after the earth and plants. And of course, if you've got everything in a 24-hour framework, it's way easier to rationalize that, but that's still the sequence. And they borrowed it from the Babylonians, which I also suspect he won't be going into.
Odds are. All right.
Weather on the moon, so they're not going anywhere. But isn't that amazing?
That's
So
amazing.
we actually have, we can actually see that now with, and they've imaged all the other landing sites as well. And with the exception of Apollo 11, I'm happy to report that all the flags are still standing. Apollo 11, the flag blew over when they launched because they put it too close to the spacecraft. So it's not standing anymore, but all the other ones are still there. So pretty amazing. And so for those of you that think that we never landed on the moon because you saw a special on Fox, no, don't worry about it. The scale of the cosmos is just as amazing as its beauty. And so again, we'll go back to the moon and compare it to some other things. Here's the moon in a first quarter phase where you see it half illuminated on the right side. And that's when it looks very pretty through a telescope because you can, the angle of the sunlight on those craters causes their shadows to be nice and long and deep. And you can see the craters best in that phase. And it looks so three-dimensional in a telescope. You can tell it's a sphere. When it's full, it looks flat as a dime. But when it's first quarter, you can tell it's a spherical little world. Here it is compared to.
Okay, RJ, you called it.
Yeah, RJ here. Here is one of those cute little things that he doesn't seem to be thinking about because he doesn't think about them. Why are there craters on the moon? Morris claimed that the archangel Michael threw lightning bolts at Satan, and some of them slammed into the moon. I'm not making this up. That was the viewpoint at the ICR back in the 1960s. Needless to say, that one kind of hasn't been dealt with since then, probably when he was in diapers, and they've now moved beyond that. But the fact of the matter is that we know the details of what the moon is made of. We know how it's formed in a big collision that takes time. It takes time to congeal. It takes time for the moon to recede. We know that from how all of the material about the conservation of angular momentum, all that physicsy stuff, and simply pointing to a cute little picture of the moon in front of a scientifically illiterate audience in a church doesn't make the data go away. So we'll see whether or not he mentions why there are craters on the moon at all in his young Earth creationist framework.
Let us see.
The Earth. How about that? It just gives you a feel for how big it is. There's the Earth compared to Saturn. Now, astronomy is a wonderful lesson in perspective because in a telescope, Saturn looks like this tiny little gem. I mean, it is beautiful. Don't get me wrong, but it's tiny. You just want to stick it in your pocket. It's this beautiful little gem, but it's nine Earths across. And that's just the planet. The rings extend out even further. Those rings are trillions of tiny little moonlets that orbit around Saturn's equator. And they are stunningly beautiful. All the big planets have rings, but only Saturn's can be seen easily from Earth. Saturn's small potatoes compared to the sun. The sun's about 100 Earths across, over 100 Earths across.
Great.
Okay.
RJ here again, yet another piece of misplaced concreteness. The heavens declare the glory of God. How wonderfully beautiful it was for the Bible never to describe the rings of Saturn, or that there were two gas giant planets out past Saturn that only God would have been able to see, because you can't see them without telescopes and you can't predict them without Newtonian mathematics. There's a whole medieval worldview that's buried in the Bible that, again, was borrowed from the Babylonians. It was cutting-edge science at a time when clay tablets were the iPad of their day. But the fact of the matter is that most of the universe is invisible in the biblical framework, because there's no God who knows the complete operating manual telling you anything about it. And the fact that he's trying to pull off modern scientific discoveries that are never even slightly anticipated in the Bible is just a case of misplaced concreteness on steroids.
Okay.
Just to give you a feel for it. It's essentially a stable hydrogen bomb. It's fusing hydrogen and the helium in the core, and that provides enough power to supply us with energy for a very long time. It's not going to run out anytime soon. The sun is what we call a main sequence star. And basically, a main sequence star is sort of an ordinary run-of-the-mill star. And main sequence stars obey a particular formula such that if they have a given mass, that sets all the other properties of the star. It sets its size, its temperature, its brightness, its color. Everything.
Okay, Sean, you're up.
He's got the sun listed as a yellow main sequence star. The sun is white. It only looks yellow when you look through the atmosphere. So this guy has a degree.
No, he said a doctorate.
He did say that.
He said he has a doctorate in astronomy.
Yeah, this guy's a doctor. I'm going to listen to him.
He's a chiropractor.
I'm sure he's going to talk about later on how bats are birds. It'll be fine.
When did Crackerjack University start doing mail order?
No, I don't think he pays much attention to zoology at all. The fun part with Lyle is he's again invoking science data that doesn't make sense within his framework. All of that stuff about the main sequence stars and the massive stars and its relation to temperature and brightness was all worked out by those not young Earth creationist astronomers over matters of a century or so. And so he's basically parasitizing science work that his worldview contributed nothing to.
Yeah, but the retard in the audience don't make a difference.
He verifies and agrees that we've been outside of Earth's atmosphere. Outside of Earth's atmosphere, the sun is white. There is no question about that.
Well, what if I ignore that?
That solves the problem.
It sounds like he needs to go back to his first year of college.
Or high school.
Yeah, high school would be even better, but we can't ask for too much.
All right.
I think Sai is just like punking us. I don't think that this is. I think this is just a presentation by a buddy of his, and he's just tricked us all into watching it.
No.
We're gonna get to the end of it, and there's not gonna be any.
That's Jason Lyle. It's a real live creationist who's telling you things he really, really, really believes.
Okay, so RJ's in on the joke. It's fine. Look, I'll watch your buddy's presentation. You just don't have to lie to me about it. Is what I'm
All
saying.
right, look, I'll tell you, none of my friends talk in that soothing voice. No, they do not. So, all right, moving on.
Everything. And the sun obeys that rule. 90% of stars do. And then the other 10% are a little brighter than they should be for that. They don't follow that rule quite. But red stars that are main sequence are a little smaller than the sun and not as bright. And they are very common. They're called red dwarfs. There are a lot of red dwarfs in the universe. That's the most common type of star. We tend not to notice them as much because they're not as bright. They're harder to see. We tend to notice the ones that are bigger than the sun and brighter than the sun, which are rare, but they're there. Like Mintaka, for example, one of the stars in Orion's belt. And
All
it's a
right.
blue
Dev, it's you.
Our sun is on the small side of stars, dude.
Yeah. I was gonna say go back.
It's on the like super small side of stars. Like our sun is like the new kid on the block, like,
Yeah. Can you go back one slide in his presentation?
Maybe.
Because he just said something very, very interesting. That stars that are smaller than the sun are rare, is what he said. But the frame didn't say that. It said the exact same opposite.
Aha. Is this a slide to which you refer?
Yes, most stars are smaller than the sun, but what he's saying is that stars that are smaller than the sun are rare. So he's not even paying attention to his presentation.
I see.
well, maybe you shouldn't either. How about that?
There's
maybe it'll just all make sense if you stop thinking.
That may be
my
the
God.
key.
There's this great video, and I can't remember where I saw it, where somebody took like our planet, right, and then zoomed out to show how it compares to Jupiter, and then zoomed out to show how that compares to the star, and then zoomed our sun, and then zoomed out to show how that compares to like to Alpha Centauri, then zoomed out to show how that compares to like the next star, and it keeps zooming out to show how these stars compare to each other, till you get to a point to where you realize that a star that's 100 times bigger than a star that was 100 times bigger than a star that was 100 times bigger than so on and so on down to our sun. Like it's this great video to watch. It's like 90 seconds long, and it's kind of mind blowing the scale that
I will
provides.
find it and post it in the live comments.
And
Yeah.
just as a preemptive, RJ, you're still muted.
In
And
that video, there's a star bigger than our solar system. The
Yeah.
Arcturus.
Yeah, the image keeps freezing up for me, and I have to rejoin in order to get caught up with the again.
No,
So, and then
I was
forget.
calling our gracious host of the lecture out on something that was in his presentation and what he said that totally contradicts each other. And he's supposed to be doctor.
Yes.
And odd that there was no response from his audience, considering that's
Yeah.
not really science talk. That's, like I said,
They're not going to notice.
Hmm.
They're not going to notice. They're hearing it. They don't want to have a discussion of spectral signatures of red dwarfs. This is not something they're going to want to hear. They want to have a nice gee whiz.
What I pointed out was right there in the frame. It says that most stars are smaller than the sun, but he says vocally that it's rare for stars to
That
be
most
smaller than
stars
the sun.
are. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. M class red dwarfs are extremely common, and most even in our neck of the spiral arm, you'll find them way more than you will G's and K's. Which Alpha Centauri is a K. One of the stars in Alpha Centauri, and the Ars, of course, is a G type. In case anybody needs to remember the old acronym, "Oh, be a fine girl, kiss me right now, sweetheart." That's the stellar classifications.
All right, moving on.
It's the most
Astronomer
common
joke.
type of star. We tend not to notice them as much because they're not as bright. They're harder to see. We tend to notice the ones that are bigger than the sun and brighter than the sun, which are rare, but they're there. Like Mintaka, for example, one of the stars in Orion's belt. It's a blue.
Okay, correcting
supergiant.
myself. I misheard him. He didn't contradict himself. So I'm sorry.
Very luminous, very, very luminous star. But there are stars that are bigger than that, like Canopus, for example. Now, you can't see it from up here, but if you come and visit us in Texas in February, you can see Canopus because it's very far south, and so you can't see it from above a particular latitude. But there are stars bigger than that, like Antares, for example, which is one of the larger stars that we know of. Stars only get maybe twice that big, and there appears to be an upper limit on their size. Pretty amazing. It's several hundred suns across, and of course, the sun is 100 Earths across.
All right, get to
if
the
you do
God
math,
part.
That's really big.
Can I just call a drink real quick?
Sure, go ahead. You're up, Dev.
As interesting as this all is about the backgrounds of stars or whatever, he has to understand, being his field, that these things are hundreds of millions or billions of years old, which is a lot older than 6,000. So I want to see where this segue goes, man.
Indeed.
He's got a real rip snorter of an explanation for that one, at least as far as I know about Jason. Now he wants to spring that little mousetrap on us.
All right, let's see.
Sometimes stars come in clusters. Not all of them, but here's what we call a globular star cluster. These are spectacular. There are a few hundred of these that orbit our galaxy. Our galaxy has its own set of globular clusters, and other galaxies have their own sets. It's about 100,000 stars packed into a relatively small area, cosmically speaking, only about 50 light years across, which isn't all that big for as many stars as you have crammed in there. They're absolutely magnificent. And you can see these in a small telescope. And I'm talking, when I say a small telescope, anything larger than, say, 6 inches across, which isn't that big. And you can get those, for a few $100. They're not all that expensive, and they won't depreciate like your computer will. So telescopes are a nice investment, a very fun investment. But there are hundreds of these, and you can see these. And if you have anything bigger than a 6-inch telescope, you can see the individual stars in them. They're beautiful. These are bright enough you can see them in binoculars, but you won't see individual stars. They'll look like a little cotton ball, kind of a little fuzzy object out there, but you can see them. And it just reminds me of that verse where the Bible says God calls them all by their names. God's got a name for each one of those stars. And that's just one globular cluster.
Okay, Dev.
Like we got a bloody catalog of star names in the Bible. The only stars I think that are alluded to at all are in Bible lore, but not in the Bible, and they're only the ones that are directly visible. This is like the shtick about Adam naming all the animals in Eden. I want to know what Adam called a therapsid.
Yeah, because all right. So wouldn't it be more convincing if you got this like 8,000-year-old book or so, right? and it's called the a Book of Genesis, and then like I turn the page, and then like it's called the Book of Stars, and it's just hundreds of millions of star names. Like
It goes on a long time. You'd run out of space just to even list the ones in the spiral arm. And remember, none of that work is being done by young Earth creationists. These are not players on the field in this area. They are all the ones who accept the Big Bang cosmology and the standard distances that stars are, all of that. And this is a background context that Jason is never presenting. He's trying to hijack work he did not do, his movement did not do, his Bible did not generate, as though it were part of his frame. And I find that very disreputable.
Indeed. All right.
Some of my favorite objects in the universe are called nebulae. That's the plural, nebula, which means cloud. But they're not a cloud of water vapor. They're a cloud of hydrogen and helium gas. Those are the two lightest elements, and they're the most common elements in the universe. Stars are made of hydrogen and helium as well, but stars are compact into a relatively small sphere. A nebula is spread out over a vast region of space. And if there are stars nearby, as there is in this case, they'll cause that nebula to glow, and you get the most beautiful, amazing colors in them. They're really stunning. This is part of the Tarantula Nebula there. And you can see there's a star cluster down here, and no doubt some of the stars nearby are causing that to heat up and glow. Very beautiful. And you can see these in a small telescope as well, although you won't see color. At least it's hard to see color, because when you use your night vision, you're using the rods in your eyes, and they're not color sensitive. So it'll look like a gray version of that, but it's still pretty. It's still quite lovely. Some nebulae are relatively small, only about as big as, say, our solar system, as opposed to the really big ones, which are light years across. But this particular one is what we call a planetary nebulae. These smaller ones are planetary nebulae because some of them are round and look like an out-of-focus planet. But there's no other reason than that. There's no connection with planets. It's where you have a star in the middle. You can see the star there. And it's ejecting gas, usually out the north and south pole of the star. And so you get these two-lobed structure there. They call that a bipolar planetary nebula because of the two poles. And so there are lots of planetary nebulae out there. Some of them bipolar, some of them are round. And it could be the ones that are round are also bipolar, but we might be looking right down the barrel. That's a possibility. We don't really know because we can't get another angle on it. We're where Earth is, and we're not going anywhere anytime soon. One of my favorites is the Ring Nebula. This was the first that I learned how to find. It is an easy find in a small telescope because God placed it right in between two guide stars for our convenience. It's one of the easiest ones for amateur astronomers to locate, and it's visible in the summer night sky not far away from the star Vega. And again, you can see the little star there in the middle. That star has died, so to speak. It has collapsed in on itself and become a white dwarf, so it's a tiny little star there. But it's blown off its outer layers into that lovely nebula. And it's so fun to see this in a small telescope. It's just this little glowing smoke ring. You're sort of expecting it to expand like we've seen smoke rings expand. And actually it is. It's just big. And so you don't notice it in your lifetime that it's not expanded very much.
All right, we're like 1/6 of the way through this. Is he going to mention anything about a 6,000-year-old Earth?
I don't think
Really
he will.
amazing.
In fact, I was about to call a drink on that. You'll notice what he never says about stuff, typically, is how far away everything is.
Yes, he hasn't mentioned that yet. That may be
In
a
relation
topic.
to maybe some type of light year, I suppose, right? Yes.
Yeah, he mentioned that light year part, and we could talk light seconds, we could talk parsecs, which are parallax of 1 second, and all that other stuff. But that brings up that pesky little light speed issue, which presumably is his escape hatch. And he's only got, what, 45 minutes to get to it?
Well, specifically, he did talk about how the globular cluster was 50 light years across. So,
without saying how far away it is. It's kind of like talking about New York City when you're standing in Los Angeles and your worldview says that they're only a mile away, but not. That's why it'd be really fun to have Jason Lyle go after Jeranism and see with them colliding their absolute matter antimatter frames, even though they probably worship the same God.
All right, moving on. Hopefully he'll tie all this together sometime soon.
And you won't see the color, but it'll look like
Don't
a
hold your
gray
breath.
smoke ring.
Yeah, really.
It's,
I mean,
it's so weird,
there's
'cause
nothing
most
for
of the
me to
places
crack
you
a
point a
joke
small
on here.
telescope, you just see stars and stars and stars and stars, and they're beautiful, but they're just stars. There's this one little magic spot where you will see a little glowing smoke ring, this little cosmic Cheerio suspended on nothing there, hanging there in space. Really, really stunning. All these things that we've looked at, all these stars and clusters of stars and nebulae, all of these are in a much larger structure called a galaxy. Our galaxy is the Milky Way. We're in it, so we can't see it, except, well, we can see it. We see it as a cloudy band in our night sky, the section of it that we see. But if we could get outside the galaxy, it would look something like that. That's the Whirlpool Galaxy, a galaxy very similar to ours. It has that beautiful spiral structure that you can see there. All kinds of galaxies in the universe, galaxies of tremendous beauty. There are galaxies of tremendous ugliness. Yeah. There are galaxies with large, mysterious areas next to them.
I was going to say that too.
Are you calling God's
Yeah.
handiwork ugly?
Bingo!
That's blasphemy, dude.
Yeah, mutual contradiction
blasphemy.
there on that little puppy. And how does he define an ugly galaxy?
I'm pretty sure God didn't call it ugly.
Like, are they like ones that are overweight galaxies? Are they galaxies that have an especially long nose or a spiral arm that's a little too long?
They have a glandular
That's one where
problem.
I've never heard anybody argue that stellar objects are or are not pretty.
It's not their fault they're ugly, all right? They've got a glandular
Exactly.
problem.
Exactly. It's society's
Andromeda's got a really good
unrealistic
personality.
Hey, there's a few galaxies that just didn't put the fork down, okay?
No, listen, these galaxies are happy with who they are, okay? Society has crafted this unnatural beauty standard for galaxies, and it has to stop,
Not all spirals are perfect spirals, all right? Jesus Christ.
okay?
So do we have a Barbie galaxy yet?
No, but we have a happy with who she is
There's a
galaxy.
barbell.
Well, somebody's got to set the false expectation, you know.
Milky Way set the
One
standard.
thing, of course, that he's dancing around is at no point does the Bible ever imply or suggest that there are stars out there that are not visible to the naked eye. There's only about, I think, 10,000 or so stars that are actually visible. And there's nothing in any of the biblical cosmology, centuries of biblically derived astronomers, never for a moment nebulae were actually galaxies, and that there were more galaxies than there are grains of sand on a beach. And the Bible could have mentioned that, you know, in between the slavery rules and not eating shellfish in Leviticus, you know, they could have slipped in a few cosmologically accurate statements, but somehow God didn't get that down on the steno pad.
No, it was either going to be the galaxy, like mentioning the billions and trillions of uncountable galaxies, or Samson punching a dead cow and somehow getting honey out of it. I may be misremembering this story.
So the butterfly nebula has big humps and you cannot lie.
Or it's an invisible ink.
All right, let us get moving here. Here we go.
We still don't know what causes that. There are galaxies that have rings of stars surrounding the main portion of the galaxy. There are galaxies that look like flying saucers. That's a real galaxy. They call that the Sombrero Galaxy, and you can see why. It's got that dark dust lane around the equator of the spiral galaxy. There are galaxies that appear to be in the process of collision.
Wait. That was the galaxy Jeranism said didn't exist. On this very show, y'all watched a video where Jeranism went onto the top of the hill. Mm-hmm. I remember I was playing, what was I playing while I was watching that? It doesn't matter. River City Ransom. Ha! Yeah, it does matter. And you were watching a video where Jeranism went up on a hill and just badgered some poor guy that set this really cool telescope up to take a picture of the Sombrero Galaxy. And he just kept saying, I guess it doesn't exist, while filming Blackness.
I do recall that movie night.
Yeah. Yeah, it comes full circle.
It's interesting. Of course, the stars would just all pass right by each other because the distance between stars is enormous compared to the size of the stars. See, so the chances of any two colliding would be remote. They'd all just pass by each other, not a problem. Clusters of galaxies, those little fuzzy specks you see there, those are galaxies. Every one of those. As we got about as far out as we can see into space now.
And how far is that?
You find galaxy upon galaxy upon galaxy. These are not stars in this image. These are galaxies. Each one of those is 100 billion stars on average. Pretty amazing.
Yeah,
and that's
how
in
far
a
away
tiny
are
little
they?
Area of space up by the Big Dipper, where they pointed the Hubble telescope for some time. Pretty amazing. All this spoken into existence by God in 6 days, according to the scriptures. In fact, if you think about it, most of this was made
but can you please talk about how far away they are?
in one day, right?
Seriously.
Because according to Genesis 5 of the 6 creation days was God creating the earth, making it right for life and forming and filling it. He takes one day, the 4th day, and makes everything else, all these stars, all the luminous objects. And I love the way the Bible describes the creation of all these hundreds of billions of galaxies with hundreds of billions of stars. It's summed up in this little phrase, He made the stars also. Wonderful lesson in perspective.
Boy, that explains a lot, doesn't it?
Is this a Mad TV skit? Is this guy serious?
He is really starting to test my
for
patience,
his audience, they're going to be totally impressed by that because they're already believing the thing he wants to be true. For them, this is a science article. Being told how science confirms the Bible, even though nothing in the Bible says stars other than the fact that the Bible says it made stars.
But in the very story he's referencing, God creates light before he creates light generating objects.
Sun isn't made until day 4.
He's just going to gloss over all of that.
Dude, I have talked to somebody who, tried to defend that point, and all they said was God can do whatever he wants. Light can exist apart from stars. And then I said, where? Where? Show me one place, please. I will go there at all haste. Please, one place.
Irony is that the Bible didn't even make up the mistake their own. They copied the mistake from somebody else because it's the Babylonian Enuma Elish story that they picked up during the Babylonian captivity that had the stars and the sun being made after the earth on the 4th day of creation. And they just incorporated the mistake. So they're not only scientifically ignorant, but they're copyists too.
All righty.
God's butt is glowing. Listen, I want to summarize his argument here real quick, okay? Hey, look at this pretty picture. Hey, look at this pretty picture. Hey, look at this pretty picture. And thus, Green Eggs and Ham was a true event, and Sam I Am was our martyr. We must all bow down before Dr. Seuss because of all of these pretty pictures I am showing you.
But no, we're only about a third of the way in. He may come out with some actual supporting arguments. We don't know yet. We have a pretty strong idea that he's not going to, but still, he may.
He's got all that sciencey stuff stuck in his pockets there, and he's going to whip them out like a mass of technical papers, overwhelming us to make poor Stephen Hawking spin around like a dervish on his wheelchair.
I am hoping that he makes some reference to the distance of the stars.
That'd actually be really funny.
Oh, Phil's here. Cool.
I think Hawkins at this point would have laser pointers that can do X-rays, and he would just be firing at him from there.
All right. Very good. Welcome, Phil. All right.
Hey.
All right. You missed precisely nothing. So don't worry about it.
Except RJ leaving and joining the meeting 100 times.
Indeed. Well, oh, he's back. Okay. Very good.
RJ's back. Take a shot.
There we go.
It was just so easy for God to create 100 billion galaxies, and of course it was. He's God. It's not a problem for him.
Don't you think it's kind of cheating when you can call magic for anything that's cheating?
But that's the only cheating they can do. You can condense the entire argument down to one word: "cuz."
Indeed.
There's God's
exactly
glory.
what he's doing. Whatever it is, he can just simply explain. Because God is the same reason is why that some creationists can believe that Joshua actually had the sun stop during the Battle of Jericho, because God can alter the forces of gravity. He can alter the inertia. God's omnipotent. He can do absolutely anything. But yet,
well, I can contend science, that. I don't know what happened to his audio.
Huh.
Oh.
You seem to be back.
God muted you, dude.
Damn. God heard that blasphemy and was like, smite head.
I think it was the Freemasons wanting to stop the truth.
Well, no, you say God can do anything because he's omnipotent, but Can he make a rock so heavy that he can't lift it?
Yes.
Only on the island of Crete.
Yeah, but just to prove you wrong, after creating it and showing that he can't lift it, he's going to lift it.
Yep.
And he's going to flex on you. Because
Yeah.
he's a G. That's just how he gets down.
All right, here we go.
The basics of astronomy,
Big G.
things that you would learn in a freshman level astronomy class. Well, you know, the Bible touches on astronomy. People say the Bible's not an astronomy textbook. I know that.
Oh, here
Because
we go.
in an astronomy textbook, we have to change.
What?
He just said the Bible's not an astronomy textbook.
Right.
He's going to attempt to use it for astronomy, and then he admits
As it is
he
done.
knows it's not an astronomy textbook. So why the frick are you using the Bible for astronomy if you know it's not an astronomy book? I want to punch you.
Hey, let's give him a chance. He may explain it in the next couple of seconds here.
Because
back.
in
No
a
more
church, the purpose of this is not science. The purpose of this is saving people, or in this case, preaching a bunch of people who already regard themselves as saved. So this is the ego stroking of the theology. This is not a discussion of the evidence for cosmology.
Yeah, that's true. And Jared, yes, the Bible touches a lot of things. So do priests. Okay, moving on.
every few years as we learn that
Somebody
some of the
needs to
things.
have that damn.
Smited.
Oh, there he goes. Wait, I want to ask. Did he already say the words light and motion so far?
He has not, that I recall.
All right, so that's yet to come.
Okay, here we go.
We believed were wrong. And the Bible will never have to be updated because God got it right the first time. And when it touches on astronomy, it's right because it's the Word of God.
Drink.
God.
Okay.
Drink.
Sean, it's you. Go ahead.
The Bible has been updated many, many times to get with modern science,
Yeah, but it's
or at
right.
least at the time.
Yeah, but it's inerrant
he just
now.
asserted that the Bible doesn't need to be updated because it's God's word and can't be wrong. Why has it been updated through the generations?
That's inerrancy here. The fact of the matter is the Bible was directly falsified on the age of the stars and the sun. No, they are not younger than the earth. But by the logic of young earth creationism, it must be younger than the earth, and therefore he only pays attention to information that reinforces it, so the Bible becomes correct again. So if you flush data, deny anything that conflicts with it, of course the Bible is absolutely perfect. You obliterate everything that conflicts with it. But no, the Bible has never been accurate on the astronomy at all.
Not so good on curing
Better
leprosy
than
either.
the Bible on astronomy.
Knows how the universe works. He made it, after all. And so let's take a look at some of these. The spherical nature of the earth. You know, I've heard people say, well, you believe in creation? That's like believing in a flat earth. You know, if you're believing the Bible, I'm thinking, wait a minute, the Bible talks about the world being round. Isaiah 40:22 talks about the circle of the earth. And you might think, well, that could be a flat
drink!
circle.
Okay, RJ, you're up.
Yeah, can't let this one pass. Excuse me. It says the circle of the earth, which people by that time could kind of figure out by just looking at an eclipse when they realized that it's the earth's shadow passing across the moon, and therefore the earth has to be kind of round. Like what? Like a ball or like a pizza plate or a frisbee? That nothing in that model requires that the earth be a sphere. Nothing in the Bible claims it is a sphere. Basically, Jason Lyle and the young earth creationists are rewriting Isaiah to fit their model, and I thought that wasn't allowed.
No, there are rules. I agree. Not supposed to be doing that. All right, here we go.
But I think the Job passage is very hard to interpret that way. The Job passage has to be a sphere. It says God inscribes a circle on the face of the waters at the boundary between light and darkness. And that boundary is what astronomers call the terminator, where light stops or terminates. And it's always a circle because the earth is a spherical world. And it's on the waters because the earth's surface is mostly water.
What? That was some gymnastics there, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Wouldn't you, at this point, wouldn't you want to bring Jaron in, Jism in here to have it out with Lyle? Because nothing is more hilarious than to see two dogmatic ideologues throw scripture at each other and sciencey facts when both of them are wrong.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but when the majority of the Bible was being written, you know, it was written across many generations, but the majority of the Bible, when it was being written, wasn't the size of their world literally mostly land?
Pretty much.
No indication anywhere in the Bible of anything outside of a tiny little slice that they had accumulated bit by bit in their various wanderings. So they didn't know diddly about China. They didn't know diddly about the Americas. They didn't know diddly about Australia or even
Europe.
far away Europe. None of that. And their world was a nice, comfortable, flat world. Even as late as Matthew in the New Testament, the stars are little balls of light that are stuck on a tarp, and they can literally roll off and drop down into the earth, which they're supposed to be doing in the end times. That was the worldview that they had. Now, by the time you get into the Christian culture, 1,000 years down the road, they've adopted Aristotelian Greek science, which had a spherical earth at the center of the universe, and a lot of the stuff that then becomes the lore that our Jason Lyle is siphoning selectively to this day. But yeah, it started out a flat world. You still had Cosmos Indipleustes, I think his name was still pushing a flat Earth in the 3rd century or so, but he was now becoming passé as the sciencey geeks of the 3rd and 4th century were going, no, the Earth is round. We can tell that from Aristotle. They're not relying on the Bible for it. They're relying on Greek science.
So Eric Dubay is living forever then?
You take that back.
I will not.
All right, here we go.
There can only
So
be
it's
one.
a wonderful description of the spherical nature of our planet. Now, if you look in most textbooks, they will credit Pythagoras with being the first person to come up with the idea that maybe the Earth is round. It's hard to know exactly when, but around that time. And then Aristotle is usually considered the first to prove that that's so, from shadows of eclipses and things like that.
Aristophanes.
But as far as I can tell, the Bible is addressing this topic before the secular experts of the day realized that. Isn't that interesting? The Bible's got them beat, but Isaiah is 700s BC.
Providence.
Yeah, and then
Drink.
Okay.
Here he's stumbling past the whole chronology issue of when these texts were written and what people knew about at the time and how late in the game they actually get codified. So here again is another shell game that he's doing where he's not presenting any evidence whatsoever. He's just saying, well, I've heard, and I guess that's the case, and there it is, and how wonderful it is. And that's because it is a non-negotiable argument for him. The Bible is always going to come out on top because he doesn't allow it not to.
I think is the oldest book of the Bible to have been completed around 2000 BC. So isn't that interesting? The Bible's getting this right centuries before the secular experts of the day.
No, it's fucking not.
Christopher Columbus was the first to come up with the idea that the Earth is round. That is a myth. People
Stop for a
already knew
second.
the world was.
Yeah.
Stopped.
Did I hear him? I might have heard him incorrectly, but just to verify, did he say the Bible was completed in 2000 BC?
It
Yes.
did seem to be the case, yes.
So why is he showing passages that were written in like 700 BC?
Because reasons.
Because it wasn't completed.
Bit of a
Inscrutable
discontinuity.
reasons. Reasons you can't look at because you don't believe it.
Can we go back for a couple seconds just to make sure that that's exactly what he said?
Sure.
Thank you.
Not a problem.
Completed around 2000 BC. So
Oh,
isn't that
a little bit
interesting?
That's it. Completed 2000 BC. That's what he said.
Okay, so
Bible's getting
he says the Bible was completed 2000
Wait.
BC, but he's showing passages from 700 BC.
Something
Also, in that thing, he's trying to say that the Bible is saying that the Earth is a sphere, right?
like that.
When the Bible,
Did you catch
Right.
that, RJ? He makes the claim that the
Yeah, I
Bible
sort
was
of came in
completed.
later. I was picking up on Malcolm Bowden. I was doing some comments on Malcolm Bowden, which one of the people in the live feed was calling attention to.
Can you go back to that frame that shows the dates?
Sure.
Sorry, I'm being a pain.
No, not at all.
But I actually want RJ to see this. He
Not at
makes
all.
the claim verbally that the Bible was completed in 2000 BC. But
Oh, that's bullpucky.
he's showing passages from 698 to 720 BC.
Yeah. Well, what
so if
the
the
guy
Bible's
thinks
completed-
the world was made 6,000 years ago. What's a few zeros amongst friends? When his little accordion scholarship can just spread things and squeeze and squish back and forth. You know, it's like being on trying to do diamond cutting on a skateboard. You know, it's not going to look good.
So he's got a doctorate in astronomy, but he can't do basic math.
So
Well, that can sometimes come up in that area, that he's highly selective on it. Remember, Lyle, although he's got an astronomy degree, this guy does not publish astronomy works. I mean, at least Andrew Snelling publishes geology stuff. He's got a real live degree, and he actually still publishes stuff. Lyle is an outlier in the same way that Don DeYoung and some of the other air quotes astronomers. They've got the degrees. It's like Kurt Wise having a paleontology degree. They don't actually do anything with it. And these are not ones that can fit in the heavy-duty game of actual astrophysics, which is like 8,000 miles ahead of this guy's expertise level.
Also, and I stepped away to get a mason jar full of wobble water. But has anybody addressed this circle business here? Right, because he's making the claim that the Bible is saying that the Earth is a sphere, right? And so he's quoting passages which describe it as a circle. Now, Sai, if I was to ask you to describe the shape of a baseball to me, what word would you use?
I believe I would say sphere. I do not think I would say circle.
And RJ, if I was to ask you to describe the shape of a pie chart to me, what word would you use?
That would be a circle.
Exactly, because circle is two-dimensional.
Here is where his Lyle's historical illiteracy, and in fact the historical illiteracy of all young Earth creationists on this point, is they have never been able to offer the tiniest shred of evidence over centuries of actual history of the scientific method and the history of the church and the history of things, of anybody going, oh gosh, I read Isaiah today in 200 AD. It's quite clear that the Earth is a sphere based on that. Making presumptions on this point. They adopted it because of the way the Greek science did, which were experimentalists. They were the first one to kind of start doing experimentally. Notice he doesn't even mention Eratosthenes, who was the guy that actually worked out the dimensions of the Earth and did it by experiment. The Bible didn't give any mention on it. The Bible easily could have had a description that the Earth is shaped like a big bung ball, and they could even give you the measurements. They knew what cubits were. God could have given the measurements of the Earth if he'd felt like it, but that would have been sciencey data. And somehow or other, he's concerned about eating the shellfish and owning slaves and not worrying about filling data fields so that Jason Lyle could have something to document.
Indeed. All right, we're still holding that hope that he's going to wrap all this up, right?
Let's see. You are living in a fantasy world, Si.
Completed around 2000 BC. So isn't that interesting? The Bible's getting this right centuries before
everything's so interesting to it.
The day.
Oh yes.
You may have heard
Never
that
quite
Christopher
gets to the
Columbus
fact
was the
level,
first to
but
come up
it's
with the idea
interesting.
that the Earth is round.
It's like he's new to facts. It's weird. It's crazy.
People already knew the world was round at the time of Columbus. He just thought it'd be faster to go that way, which turns out it isn't. So, but in any case, I'm glad he made the trip. People have known the world was round for some time. Earth is suspended in space. Job chapter 26, verse 7 says that God hangs the earth upon nothing. A wonderful poetic description of the nature of gravity. How about that? Might have been hard to believe when it was written.
Drink.
Okay.
Right. It's just as consistent with the idea that the Earth is static in the center of the universe, hanging upon nothing. It's not really hanging at all on anything. But the idea is that nobody in that worldview thought that the planets were moving around the sun. They mentioned that, but it neglected it. It took people centuries later, based on observation and finally the development of telescopes, to actually work that stuff out. All the church worldview did was adopt Aristotelian physics, which got part of it wrong. And nothing about it is gravity. God could have put a phrase in there to say that objects move faster the longer they fall. There's all sorts of things that could have been put in there that were scientifically accurate, but you don't. None of that's in there. Instead, we get how you can beat your slave to death after 3 days.
Well, there is a contradictory passage in there. It says that the Earth is immovable.
Yeah, because they thought the Earth was the center of the universe.
Yeah, but
and they continue to think that. Why was the church so concerned about dislodging the earth because they thought nothing moved. The Greeks made exactly the same mistake because they never performed the experiment. Galileo was the first person, apparently, in the history of the world who figured out a way to test whether there was inertia to objects and realized that objects accelerate when they fall, all that kind of stuff. None of that's in the Bible. None of it's in Greek science. And because the Bible worldview of the early church copied Greek science, they made all the same mistakes they did too. And apparently the Bible writers could never figure out how to get past the Greeks.
I think my point was, is this guy got a doctorate in astronomy. Does he think that the universe is geocentric?
No. The party line at AIG is that the Earth revolves around the sun, and that's why it's hilarious to read the criticisms that AIG did with Malcolm Bowden, that I alluded to in the little side chat in there. Malcolm Bowden being a geocentrist on biblical grounds, and it's suddenly the case that I don't think it was Lyle, I think it was another guy that was actually going after Bowden, but he basically becomes just like a standard cosmology thinker, evidence-based and all that kind of stuff to try to get rid of that, and then kind of slipping in the end that they were trying to argue that somehow the Bible was describing a non-geocentric universe, but the history doesn't support that. And details are not Lyle's strong suit. They aren't any of creationist strong suit.
Then I think that Lyle needs to notify the editors of the Bible that they need to do another update.
Yeah, it's the Bible 2.0 back in there, except the Mormons already got in on that one, and there's a bit of a dispute about that.
After all, most things don't hang on nothing, and that's not what the experts of the day taught. They taught that the Earth was a flat disk and floated in water. And wouldn't that make more sense? Because after all, things float in water. We've seen that. But you can't hang something upon nothing. Well, you can't, but God can, and he did. And again, the description, which is perfectly accurate, God got it right long before the secular experts of the day figured that out.
Okay, Sean, you're up.
No, nobody can hang something from nothing. We have people on the ISS that let go of something, they just float there. Just pointing that out.
Okay.
Yep.
Pretty
But
interesting.
but you see,
So all the astronauts
space
are now God. I like that.
No. You see, because space is not technically nothing. There's still matter there in which that they are floating through. God,
But they let go of something and it's hanging from nothing. And if only God can do that, all of the astronauts are now God, but according to him.
Nope, they're still in space. Space exists, so it's a something. Checkmate, atheists.
Yep. Well, I guess it's official then.
Fucking
so I gotta
GG.
go to bed so I can get up early and go to church tomorrow. So I think we're good.
And remember, if the duck weighs more than the woman, she's a witch.
Well, I mean, yeah, because yeah.
We're doing science here now. Biblical science, sound scripture.
Can we just have one night? Just one night that doesn't devolve into Monty Python jokes. I mean,
no, everything is Monty Python.
It's a natural progression, and we can all see how it will inexorably end at a Monty Python joke. But I'm just saying, I think we can be better than
When
this.
you're listening to
I don't
guys
know what
like
that
this
means.
all night, all you can be reminded of is
Think
Monty
about this.
Python.
I'm in this hangout and it hasn't devolved into sexual innuendo, so we're doing good.
I mean, yet.
Night's not over.
Yeah.
I still don't know what that means
of
in
the
English.
universe. The Bible describes God as stretching out the heavens like a curtain, spreading them out as a tent to dwell in. And it now appears that
the words
the
make
universe is
sense
being stretched
separated,
out.
but when you put them together, just sheer gibberish.
This was rediscovered by secular scientists in the late 1920s. The Hubble and others from observations of galaxies. It appears that all galaxies are moving away from all other galaxies, as if the entire universe is being stretched out or expanded. And, this verse would have been hard to believe when it was first written, because
Hold on now.
What type of theistic fuckery is going on here?
Does the Bible not imply that all the stretching is done? That all the stretching, I thought, according to the Bible, was done already. It's okay, poof, then I'll stretch out the heavens, poof. Doesn't say anything about continual stretching, does it?
It says something about he'll stretch it. He stretches the heavens like a tent or something like that.
Right,
Yeah.
but you see, tents have an end with like a stake point. implying like a firmament or something.
I mean, I don't know. I've never seen the edge of a tent. I don't think you can prove the edge of the tent exists, because every time I start to head out that way, the UN ships stop me, and then they push me back to the inside of the tent.
Shut the fuck up!
All right. I hope you're all noticing the very sciencey graphic he's got here with a bunch of
And
little...
we lost Dev.
All right, here we go.
Up until the 1500s, most of the astronomy experts believed the universe was static and unchanging. And any changes they did see, they attributed to atmospheric phenomena. They thought comets were part of Earth's atmosphere, for example. They thought the universe couldn't possibly be expanding. It's counterintuitive. You look at the universe tonight, it looks about as big as it looked last night. It doesn't look like it's being stretched out or expanded. And yet God was exactly right in his description there. Now, some people have asked, well, does this, mean that there was a Big Bang? Because if you run it backwards, does that mean all the galaxies, were together? And if you run it back billions of years, does that mean, does the fact that the universe is getting bigger mean it exploded into existence 13.7 billion years ago? The answer is no. Right? Some of you are expanding a bit. That doesn't mean you exploded into existence billions of years ago. It just means you're bigger than you used to be.
I had such high hopes there for a second.
Did he? All right, Drake. He just said. He just said the answer. Says nope. You're just quote bigger than you used to be. Well, guys, pack it up. Job is done.
Indeed.
God made the universe with some size, and he stretched it out since then. There's no reason to extrapolate back to a point. There's no guarantee that it was ever a point anyway. And people have said, well, does this at least confirm the Big Bang? Because didn't the Big Bang predict that there would be this expansion, and we discovered it? Doesn't that count as points for the Big Bang? No, because the expansion of the universe was discovered in the late 1920s. The Big Bang was invented in 1931. That was the first time anybody thought maybe the universe coming from a
Big Bang was invented?
Point. It was developed to explain this expansion in a secular way, really. Now, the person who invented the Big Bang idea, he did believe in God, but he believed that God should be left out of anything science-wise, so he had a difference of philosophy from mine.
Okay, Dev.
Frank. He's saying that given what we know, if we just play the film backwards, then the Big Bang is an inevitability.
Okay, hold on.
It's gonna happen.
Did he just say that the Big Bang was theorized in the 1930s?
Yes, he did.
Try 1920.
Well, he's. Oh my God! What? I don't.
The important thing about the Big Bang is that it contained within it a necessary prediction. And indeed, the person who ironically worked out the prediction was a critic, the guy that coined the term Big Bang, which was Fred Hoyle, who used it as an insult, this Big Bang thing, and eventually it took on. And it was that if it were the case that everything in the universe had once been compacted together, that you would find in the very beginning of it that it would have a certain temperature that was inevitable because of all of the energy in the universe. And that therefore, if it had been expanding for all of this time, which now we're into the regular chronology of the universe of billions of years, it would necessarily cool down, and you would find everywhere in the universe a cosmic background radiation, which nobody yet had discovered, until Arno Penzias and the bunch discovered it accidentally in the 1960s, thus confirming the Big Bang. So what we've got is something which was a critic of Big Bang cosmology who worked out a necessary prediction that would have to be true and would uniquely be true if the Big Bang were true, and that we discovered that that was in fact true. We're way beyond just vague little theory here, Dr. Lyle.
And I was incorrect. It was 1927 by a Catholic priest named...
Matra.
The guy that actually proposed it wasn't the Big Bang Theory. He just called it the expansion of the universe. It was George
Lemaitre, I think.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And he proposed that the universe began from a single primordial atom. But it was the birth of the Big Bang Theory.
Roman Catholic, I think he was a Jesuit, and by that time, of course, the Roman Catholics had gotten over their Galileo fixation, and were now busy with a lot of very active astronomers at the Vatican Observatory.
Conservation of energy.
When the when was the expansion found?
Oh, in the 60s. That was an absolutely fascinating thing because Penzias and Bunch worked for Bell Labs, and they were trying to figure out how to use microwaves for communication. And they set up their little system, and everywhere they pointed the damn thing, they got this microwave hiss. And they were really pissed off by it. For a while, they thought maybe birds were shitting inside the detector and causing some calibration problem, but they cleaned everything out, and it was still everywhere they pointed. And then by a weird coincidence, or maybe God just loves Big Bang cosmologists, some astronomers were having a and they contacted them and said, we're detecting this damn microwave irradiation everywhere. Do you know what that is? And they were saying, oh gosh, we were just talking about that. That's the necessary prediction of the Big Bang. And we were trying to figure a way that we could build detectors to figure out how to detect whether or not that actually took place. Thank you very much. Would you like your Nobel Prize today?
I got to correct you, RJ. Hubble was the one that discovered the universe was expanding in 1929.
Oh yeah, that was in the 20s. Yeah.
So Big Bang Theory the Big Bang Theory was first proposed in 1927, which is against what this guy's claiming. Hubble figured it out that it was expanding 2 years later.
Well, the expansion of the universe and the Big Bang element of it were separate things. And again, you have to bring in Fred Hoyle again. I think he was doing his calculations in the 30s and 40s. And so that was where the term began to accumulate, calling it the Big Bang, because that was the term he came up as an insult. But anyway, the Penzias bunch is in the 1960s. By that time, it was a big, keen, hot topic in astrophysics, because the notion that the universe was expanding was becoming really, really clear. And Hoyle, who was the last ditch in the steady state cosmology, where hydrogen atoms are popping into existence to fill out the universe, was trying to find every way he could to disprove the Big Bang. And that's why he worked out this calculation of, well, if this were true, then we would expect to find this background radiation. So that was one of the grandest.
I'm just pointing out that this guy's timeline is completely wrong, because the expansion of the universe was theorized in 1927, and then it was proven in 1929.
Do you think his target audience noticed?
There's enough players on the field that you can pick dates as to when you want to deal with it. It's fair to say that the Big Bang notion, the expansion of the universe, is in the 1920s. They're trying to grapple with it in the 1930s and 40s. And then in the 50s and 60s, we eventually work out how you would test it and bump into Penzias. And then the rest is history, except for Doofus Lyle and the younger creationists.
Mass.
There we go.
This one's a little more abstract, but I do believe that the Bible teaches that the amount of stuff in the universe, the amount of energy, or the amount of mass, is constant. Einstein tells us, by the way, energy and mass are really the same thing, measured in two different ways. We'd expect this on the basis of Scripture, because all things were made by God. God made everything, that is. And we know that God ended his work of creation by the seventh day. The heavens and the earth were complete. And so he's not creating new things today in the universe. He's working today, but he's not his work of creation.
Okay, so that says no new stuff. That does not say anything about conservation and lack of loss of stuff. I think he's stretching this a little bit.
Is done, you see, until the new heavens and the new earth, the eternal state anyway. So we'd expect no new material would pop into existence. Does that bar creative miracles? Well, no. God can make an exception, but this is the general trend, you understand? The general trend is that God is finished with creation. And we'd expect that nothing would cease to exist, because God upholds all things by the word of his power.
Oh, there we go.
And by him or in him all things consist or hold together. So nothing's going to just evaporate either. And those two principles together are what we call conservation of energy, or conservation of mass. Again, mass and energy being the same thing, basically. It's hard to pin down when these principles were discovered by the experts of the day, but usually James Joule is credited with the discovery of conservation of energy. He's 1800s. So again, the Bible's discussing these concepts, not in quite the same way that physicists would, but the principles are there.
Oh boy, not quite the same way. Even slightly the same way. In no sense whatsoever the same way.
Just rediscovered it.
This I would call this occultic thinking. People who have a weird occult view of the world will find little scavenging bits, and Nostradamus believers do it, and people in the Quran defenders and Hindu people, when they're trying to defend their scriptures and that, use exactly the same technique of trolling around for stuff that, if you look at it in just the right way, confirms the religion that they want to be true.
Countless numbers of stars. The Bible describes Abraham's descendants as the stars of heaven and as the sand which is upon the seashore. And it says, which cannot be numbered for multitude. So the Bible is using this as a figure of speech to indicate a humanly uncountable number. Now, of course, we know God can count the number of stars and, in fact, has a name for each one of them. The Bible's clear about that. But from a human perspective, we couldn't possibly count the number of stars. It's a great analogy.
Okay. Sean, you're up.
So the Bible says that God has named all of the stars.
Yeah.
It never gives the list.
They lost it.
I'm sure it's coming. You got to remember, it's big. It's kind of hard to transport. All right,
Still, they're making a claim with no evidence.
Just have faith.
That's Jason Lyle. That's their gig. All they got to do is to put scripture up, and that settles it. Remember, it's revealing that somebody like you, Ross, who is not a young earth creationist, has exactly the same mindset as Jason Lyle. He just has a slightly different perspective on the Bible. He has explicitly said that if he thought the Bible taught that the universe was young independent of the evidence. All of the physical evidence that the earth is old and the universe is old, if he thought the Bible taught that. He doesn't believe the Bible teaches that, and boy, they go into all thrashes back and forth in their debates about what yom and all these other damn things mean in Hebrew, and it's very Byzantine and medieval sounding. But so that the main point is that for Jason Lyalists and people who think like him, regardless of what religion that they're dealing with, they have a thing that's non-negotiably true, and they only pay attention and only allow to be true information that corroborates it. And where have we seen that before? We've seen it in Jeranism.
It might have been.
Is it just me?
Logically, they're twins separated at birth.
Is RJ like really loud?
I'm sorry.
He's just very passionate.
Yeah.
No, look, I'm mad at it. It's cool. It woke me up. We're good. I'm back.
Okay, cool.
What are we talking about? Are we still on this guy? Look, I can't crack jokes on this guy. I feel like I'm heckling a high school librarian. All right, it doesn't. This here is just a middle school history teacher doing his best, and I can't. Credit? I mean, really, I can't say any bad things about this guy without feeling really awful.
Sunday school dropout, maybe?
Yeah, and that actually depends where he is on the pecking order of things. Although he's a bit of an apologist that does well, he goes out on the lecture circuit, as you see here, at least in friendly venues, and debates, and has debated various others from evolutionists to old earth creationists. But his role in the sciencey end of things, he can get out of his learning curve really, really fast.
Well, the problem I have so far is it seems the pattern is the title of this was Astronomy Reveals the 6,000-year-old Earth. So far, he's not using the astronomy to demonstrate anything. It's all Bible quotes, which that's kind of...
How far into this are we?
We are at 20 minutes.
Oh,
out of how many?
Shit. 1 hour.
Yeah, it's an hour.
Oh my God.
Well, we could let the minor stupid slip by. We've done that before. All right, let's see what we got.
It might have seemed like an inadequate analogy when it was first written, because the number of stars you can see with the naked eye is a few thousand. We estimate between 3,000 and, if you have superb vision, maybe 10,000 stars with your naked eye. And that's a big number, but it's countable. You could count to 10,000. It would be tedious, but you could do it. With the invention of the telescope, we pointed at the Milky Way and realized, oh, wow, what we thought was that cloudy band is hundreds of billions of stars, and you cannot count to 100 billion in your lifetime.
Okay,
Can't be done.
Stop.
You don't live long enough.
Okay.
Going back to something RJ has said many times, when the Bible was written, they didn't have telescopes. They only saw, up to 10,000 stars if they had super eyes. So... again, the Bible doesn't point to anything about the outer universes.
Indeed. And again, odd that a supreme being would exclude that kind of information. knowing that it would be useful later.
Yeah, or
Right.
maybe, say, hey, make telescopes. Here's how. A useful science lesson instead of the stuff on the slavery thing. There were so many missed opportunities in the Iron and Bronze Age for actual science education in the biblical context that somehow escaped everybody's attention until the Renaissance.
Indeed. Well, at least we know how to cure leprosy. All right, here we go.
But and that's just our galaxy, and we estimate there's at least 100 billion galaxies out there. And so we can maybe estimate the number of stars, but there's no way we could count them. It's a great analogy for a humanly uncountable number. The Bible got it exactly right. The experts of the day, well, they were wrong. There was a time when the secular experts thought there were exactly, I forget the number, I think it was 1,022 stars, because that's how many Ptolemy had cataloged in his work. And even though he never claimed that his list was exhaustive, there was a philosophy that everything worth knowing was known by the Greeks. And so if Ptolemy had only cataloged that many stars, there were only that many stars, despite the fact you can see more than that. So it really shows you how a philosophy can get in the way of observations if it's a false.
Okay, did he just say that?
Yeah.
Isn't that ironic?
Philosophy can get in the way.
This is one of those, does he really want to go there? No.
All right, let's hear more of his philosophy that's getting in the way of observation.
Philosophy. So do you get the point?
Yeah, I
Have we
get
learned a
the
lesson
point.
of
You're giving a
history?
lot of irony right
Have
now.
we learned that in the past, whenever experts of the day have disagreed with the Bible has always turned out to be right? It
Really?
wouldn't have to be if it really is the Word of God.
Well,
What about today? Have we learned that lesson of history? Not everyone's learned that lesson of history, because you'll have people today that say, well, we know the Bible got it wrong here, and they're just setting themselves up to have egg on their face the way the experts of the past did. When God speaks on something, he's right. He's God.
All right, so that thing with the bloody birds for leprosy, that works then. That's what he's saying. That works.
mhm. And also how to breed things by just having animals look at each other next to a striped fence or something like that. I think that was one of little Jacob's little tricks. And then, of course, those rules about how you're supposed to treat your slave. Apparently, our 13th and 14th Amendments are bucking God's law by not allowing slaves like it was okay for Abraham. This is a piece of historical illiteracy on his part that just causes pus to leak out of my ears when I hear it, because it's so vile and stupid and dangerous.
By the way,
And I
Si,
guarantee you that audience is going to have a hell of a lot of Trump voters in it.
I'm going to open the second box of Band-Aids now.
Okay, very good. It's gotten that bad, has it?
It's gotten
All
that
right.
bad.
All right. Here we go.
And so I want to now talk about a couple of issues where the secular experts today have not quite caught up to the truth of the Bible. One of those deals with the age of the universe.
Here we go.
And my secular colleagues would say, no, 13.8 billion years for the age of the universe, and Earth's 4.5 billion years old. Well, the Bible indicates that's not the case. It indicates a much younger universe, a much younger Earth. And I want to show you that even today, there is evidence that lines up with what the Bible teaches about
Cool,
the age
here it comes.
of the universe. Scripture teaches a young universe. It's clear that God created in 6 days, and it tells us what he did on each of those days. It's clear from context. Those are ordinary days because they're bound by an evening and a morning. Some people have tried to stretch that out into ages, but that won't work in the Hebrew based on the context, because you're bound by evening and morning, and there's a number with them and so on. Human beings are made on the 6th day. And from those genealogies you love to read before you go to bed, and so begets so-and-so, you can add up those ages, and it's no harder than balancing your checkbook, and it's a few thousand years. And the universe, by the way, that most of the celestial objects in the universe are made on day 4, and so that pins the universe at a few thousand years as well.
Yep.
That goes against what I was
all that
taught.
math holds up. That is some rock solid logic right there.
Most undoubtedly, I would agree. Now, he said the word evidence before. He said there's evidence for this.
He did.
And
He said
Yeah,
evidence
yeah,
is
we're just really itching to see that evidence.
Yeah.
The posting I put up was as much evidence as he's been able to do so far, and that was back in 2007. We'll see whether he can manage to pull out something a little better out of his hat that he's not wearing at the moment.
Let's see.
Through the
I think Fino nailed it. You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
secular school system, and I was taught billions of years, but there's evidence that confirms thousands of years.
Here it comes.
For example, the excess internal heat of the giant planets. Jupiter gives off twice as much energy as it receives from the sun. Okay,
Oh my
it's
God,
actually
this argument.
it gets some energy from the sun, but it gives away twice as much. Okay, and you can't keep doing that forever, right? Because it's losing energy. You can't continue to spend away.
So is the sun.
More than you take in, unless you're the federal government, right?
No. This. Wait. What year is this video from? Sorry, hold on. Drink.
Okay. I don't know.
Because
sure,
this
it's the last 5 or 6 years. I mean, it's got widescreen imagery, so it's in the HD era. It's got a little portable laptop he's got knocking around in there. Nice to know he can afford to do that.
No, like the reason why I ask is that this argument was one that David Smalley used to question Eric Hoven's genuineness. Eric Hoven uses this argument a lot, evidently. I try not to dive into that pool too often. But David Smalley pointed out that Eric Hoven had been corrected on the Jupiter argument, multiple times. And he continues to use it. And so that's the backstory. That's the only reason why I know this is because so Jupiter gets heat energy from like tidal pulls from the moons, right? Or something along those lines. Like it's a very
it's got
simple
radioactive material in it. It's gigantic mass. It's only a little bit smaller than the threshold you need to form a star. If it had been a hell of a lot, not that much bigger, it would have compressed down to actually form thermonuclear addition. From what I'm aware of the physics in this area, there is no, in modern cosmology, about Jupiter's heat coming from stuff. That this is a perfectly fine feature of the fact that that's a giant gas giant.
Yeah.
And this is a guy who isn't a participant in any of that material, and he's kind of channeling stuff that's really, really old creationist apologetics here.
That's why this argument kind of like boggles my mind. Like I've heard this argument and heard it debunked. Like I think like Sean Carroll or somebody really went at this argument.
Okay, I have to ask the two of you: have you listened to creationists? They use what they got. They use
I'm just
what
saying,
they got.
like when Ken Ham says stop using an argument, I feel like that's when you stop. Like, is he going to pull out the moon dust argument next?
Yes.
Like
Okay.
any argument.
I really love it.
That I feel like any argument that I hear Matt Dillahunty debunk on a public access TV show, you should stop using.
But you really hit on a good point here, Eat, because what we're detecting here is that he's very level in terms of the apologetics that he's siphoning off of. And you'll notice he's not exactly throwing technical literature at us in this so that anyone can be able to fact check it, like anybody in the church pews are going to be taking notes on this to go fact check Lyle afterwards.
All right, let's see what the next argument is.
Well, Jupiter's losing energy, and it can't do that forever. The federal government can't do that forever either, by the way. Anyway, it's kind of like when you take a potato out of the microwave. It's nice and warm, and it radiates that heat out into space, right? But it can't do that forever because it's only got so much energy. It cools off. And for a potato, it doesn't take that long. Now, Jupiter is a much bigger potato. It's 10 Earths across, and so a few thousand years, it's not going to cool off very much. But if it were billions of years old, why isn't it?
Okay, RJ, you're up.
I mean, this one is an argument that if he were offering this argument in 1910, a little bit more like Lord Kelvin, making that kind of an argument that the Earth could only be 60 million years old because of the amounts to cool off. Radioactivity! It changes the equation. And for him to be arguing like this in the 21st century, it's like he's trying to disprove cell phones because his fax machine can't access the Wi-Fi.
I bet he still carries a pager.
Nice of her.
I think
That's a
I think
problem.
his brain gets dry cleaned periodically,
For
so
the
he's
second
got
review.
more problems than just the pager.
Oh my God, that may be the meanest thing anybody has said about this man tonight.
The problem's even worse for Neptune, which gives off 2.7 times as much heat as it receives from the sun. Why
Here's
is
a
it so
hint, Mr.
relatively warm?
Lyle. They're gas giants. They produce a lot of friction with their motion from the internal clouds. Just that alone will cause heat. They are under a lot of stress from gravity, which, when you combine it with lateral motion, produces more friction, which causes heat. There's a lot of things that go
And
involved
Neptune
with a planet that
really far
size.
away.
Hmm.
Farther out than Jupiter is, the amount of sunlight it's receiving is proportionately less. So even if it isn't as energetic as a Jupiter is, as a much bigger object, its proportion will look different because the baseline is different. You know, there's just a mass of misrepresentations that are going on here, which as an astronomer, he has no legitimate excuse. He is veering into bearing false witness territory, or he's dull as a sack of hammers in his own discipline and doesn't pay attention to a damn thing.
I think option one is more apt.
Hmm.
If it's really billions of years old. And that's a perplexing dilemma for the secularists, but it makes sense given that they're...
Do any of you feel perplexed?
Not so much.
No, I'm just a bundle of perplexion here,
Right.
but it doesn't have anything to do with the secular science.
All right.
They're young. These worlds are thousands of years old. The Earth's magnetic field. You know, the Earth has a magnetic field that's caused by electrical current in the core, and that makes that magnetic field that surrounds us.
That was a rather weird description.
Yeah, a little bit.
Big old 9 volts.
Like a blanket. It protects us from solar radiation
All right, do we need to go into it? The rotating? No, I don't think we do.
and cosmic radiation and so on. And of course, you can
But
make
let's
a
see
magnet.
if it
by
mentions the
taking a
magnetic
coil
fields
of
of the
wire,
gas
wrapping
giants.
around, touching it to a battery. That's electrical current causes magnetism. And just
Wrong.
like a battery runs down, Earth's magnetic field is running down. Earth's magnetic field is actually decaying. And we've been able to measure that over the centuries. And it's been decaying in a steady exponential decay. Now, we think during the flood year, because of all the tectonic activity that would have disrupted this.
Okay, hold on. Wait a minute. Wait. Sorry. Quick drink.
Okay.
Didn't he say steady and then he shows this like
Yes.
wonky ass graph? Like,
Yes,
That-
yes, he did. Steady.
am I just having a stroke? Does the word steady mean what I think it means?
And of course, you know what is instantly coming into my head when he talks about magnetism and geomagnetism? It's geomagnetic reversals, of which we can calibrate and measure and observe those all through the geological record, and we can confirm the directions that the flip when the thing flips back and forth and all that. And it's one of the things that helped determine plate movement and seafloor spreading in the 1960s, was you could see the bands of the geomagnetic reversals over there. So the idea that, oh, it's been declining and therefore you can extrapolate back to the flood year, the geomagnetic field went down and all the cell phones were deactivated in Noah's pockets, and all of the electromagnetic radiation pours in and kills off all of his friends long before the water comes in. Oh, this more misplaced concreteness here. You've got a problem that you're not thinking through very well.
He was just
Jason.
mad because his pager stopped working for a year.
Yes, from that geomagnetic reversal.
Rapid oscillations in the total in the field strength, but the total energy is just going to drop. So in terms of the total energy, it's just been dropping since creation.
This graph is like the exact opposite of Occam's razor, right? If you cut out like the stupid wonky bit there in the middle, right, it looks like the graph just connects one end to the other. And he's just like, no, that makes too much sense. I'm going to grab it in the middle. I'm going to cut it from one end and then just shake it all up. And then boom, there's my new science. It's almost like he's daring somebody from the audience to question him. Like I can just hear him thinking, I dare you, stand up and ask something. Go on.
Even not to scale. You'll notice he doesn't have a scale on it because the time from creation to the flood is only about from 4004 down to 2400. So it's only about 1600 years. And then it's a whopping 2500 years to get down to Christ. And then you've got only 2000. So he's playing with the chronology, even on his own stupid little magnetic field decay, which is
Well, I would just like to point out that Christ must have been very magnetic, because there's a huge magnetic spike.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
He was just a real attractive guy.
Not only did he save us from our sins, but he also saved us from cosmic solar radiation. That is there anything that guy can't do? Water to wine, saving us from cooking to death.
I have seen evidence in any young Earth creationist publications where they have documented that sudden drop off of the magnetic field coincidental with when they think the flood is, and that it is occurring universally in all available deposits. They're never going to be able to cram the seafloor spreading data into that scenario. It's just ridiculous. So this cute little drawing that he puts up there, that little audience in his church pews, but it ain't going to cut the mustard with geophysicists.
It's about as realistic as the virtual CGI that is being used for the YouTube video right here.
It's at least as accurate as Jaren's pictures of the sun moving around the Earth, flat Earth. It's about the comparable amount of detail there.
Boy, is it just
it's about as accurate as a blue lightsaber.
Is it just me, or does RJ seem really angry at Jaren these days?
We've indoctrinated him into the flat Earth cult to just totally razz on it.
It's a beautiful counterexample because methodologically he's identical to Jason Lyle. He has a slightly different content of twaddle, but the methods that they're using of deck stacking, of removing data, of presuming things that they haven't proven, the only difference is that Lyle is more prone to be citing scripture irrelevantly. Jarenism, which he's more fond of playing with his laser pointer.
We know from the last almost 2 centuries, we can measure the drop in the magnetic field. It's quite consistent with that exponential decay. It's exactly what we'd expect, which means you run it backwards, and at creation, it was a bit stronger than it is today.
Yeah, look at this graph I completely made up. Now here, watch me use it to explain this other story that's also completely made up.
It would actually make life impossible if the magnetic field is as strong as would be required if it was even millions of years old, let alone billions. And so it's
his evidence of that is?
My secular colleagues have to...
His graph, duh.
Oh, of course.
They had really good magnetic detectors from creation right up to the flood.
Believe that it doesn't have this exponential decay, but that it's constantly oscillating back and forth, but there really isn't evidence for that today. Again, there might have been temporary oscillations during the flood year, but that just drains the energy even faster.
Okay, stop for a second, Si.
Okay.
Oh my God,
Something's been bugging me this entire hangout.
Just one thing.
Yes, one thing has just been absolutely triggering my OCD.
Okay.
When this hangout is over, check your freaking email.
Okay.
You've got 99
oh my
plus.
God, dude, you've got 99 problems.
Indeed.
All right, who wants to take bets on whether or not a bitch is one of them?
I'm sorry to derail, but that has been bugging all night long.
That's.
Oh my God.
All right.
Moving on.
So now you guys know there are just under 100 people that I don't care about at all.
Yeah. Now I don't feel bad about you not responding to any of my messages, so it's fine.
There we go.
Earth, but a lot of the other planets of the solar system also have these magnetic fields. Jupiter's would be bigger than the sun if you could see it. It's a very powerful magnetic field. And why is it still so strong if the planet's billions of years old? And I'm going to suggest it's because the planet's not billions of years old. It's thousands of years old. So it hasn't had time to decay yet. The planet Uranus is tilted on its side as it orbits the sun, so it rolls around the sun. It's one way to think about it.
Okay, stop here.
Stopped.
He is about to shoot down God's perfection in the foot.
Okay.
Because he just showed Uranus, and it's tilted way far off of its orbital plane. So where's the organization of God and all his perfection? He's screwed up here.
and the magnetic field axis is stuck in the side like a bar magnet. It's not even lined up with the rotation axis, so the magnetic field would wobble as the planet rotates. Really strange. So the planet Uranus is just really messed up on a number of levels. And I think God did that just out of his creative diversity. But the magnetic field, I want to point out
Drink. In the misplaced concreteness department here, it would have been a little better case if you had had some example that God mentions that there was such a planet out past Saturn to begin with, but instead no one had a clue about any of that because it required Newtonian mechanics. In fact, by the time you get to Laplace, they don't have any need of God hypotheses at all to be able to predict where planets are. But the idea that the creator of the universe, who lets millions of people die in horrible deaths during the Holocaust, micromanages the tilt axis of Uranus is something that's kind of creepy and weird.
Well, just say eccentricity.
That God is such a rib tickler there, playing with those planets and nematode parasites.
Well, I think we learned from the Old Testament. God is not a cool guy.
No, he's not.
He has Australian issues as well. He's terribly worried about people building mud brick pyramids. That just scares the shit out of him.
So it would seem.
Hey, and Iron Chariots.
Watch out. Iron Chariots is scary.
Yeah, at least he's got a sense of humor.
Got a problem with him.
At least he's got a sense of humor. I mean, he made the platypus.
Yep.
Nipples on men. I mean, what a jokester.
What about that whole man from heaven thing? That was solid.
Male patterned baldness. Hilarious. Enlarged prostates for men. Fucking hee-haw.
Well, speaking of male pattern baldness, we're created in his image. Why does he still have hair?
Because, see, that's the joke. We lose our hair.
Wait.
That's all because of the fall. That was all because of the sin of Garden of Eden.
Oh, that's right.
It required technology to develop Viagra and gray hair.
If he didn't have hair, what would blow in the wind behind him while he's standing on his cloud on Mount Olympus?
Yeah.
Or wherever he is. Whatever God we're talking about. We weren't specific.
We're just about halfway through this, and we've... Here's an idea. Something.
About another 30 minutes of drivel on his hands? How is he going to fill that up? Because he's been so jam-packed with knowledge so far.
Yeah. To speed it up, I have a suggestion. What we'll do when there's a call for drink, I'm not going to stop the video. I'm going to just mute the video. And we will let it continue. You
could have been doing that this whole time and no one would have noticed.
The information contentometer hasn't gone above 0 so far on his video, so that wouldn't necessarily be a problem.
All right, so you don't think you'll miss anything critical?
Is that an app you download, the information content meter?
It's called a BS
my
detector.
Non-existent cell phone.
All right, so that's what we'll do from now on. We won't stop the video. We'll just mute the video. Okay, here we go.
The magnetic field is quite strong on the planet Uranus. In fact, it's strong enough you can have aurora borealis, northern lights. We have northern lights from time to time when Earth's magnetic field gets disrupted by solar radiation, and that's because of Earth's magnetic field.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's northern lights in Jupiter.
And Saturn.
Yeah.
And Neptune. And I believe that New Horizons found some on Pluto.
Really?
I believe. I'd have to double check on that.
Me too, I have to do.
Which would be amazing, given the fact that it doesn't have much of an atmosphere.
Not much of one, but it does have one.
Yes. All right.
Of decay.
Oh, yeah, this muting is much better.
My colleague, Dr. Russ Humphreys, who used to work for us at ICR, he's retired now, but he actually predicted the magnetic fields of Uranus and Neptune before they were measured by the Voyager 2 spacecraft. And he based that on their age of 6,000 years. He said, okay, based on 6,000 years of decay, here's what the magnetic field should be.
Oh, God.
The evolutionists thought that those planets are billions of years old, and so they thought the magnetic field should be virtually non-existent. Voyager 2 measured it. It was perfectly consistent with creation. How about that? Consistent with 6,000 years. That's real science right there.
How about that?
If you
Oh, yeah.
with the truth of God's word, rather than ignoring that history and relying on guesswork instead. My secular colleagues, perplexed by that, have said, well, there must be some kind of recharging mechanism.
Okay. You're up, John.
That wasn't me.
Oh, who called drink?
Oh, that was me. I just wanted a couple seconds of silence.
Oh.
No breaks.
All right. Have you had enough? Shall we continue or?
Okay, you can unmute it.
All right.
Maybe that's just an anomaly, but when they flew past Neptune and it was doing the same thing, that kind of blew away that hypothesis.
You guys are right. We didn't miss anything.
No, it's just consistent with thousands of years. Do you know the moon is actually moving away from the Earth?
Oh, no.
It's actually, and the reason it does that, the moon induces tidal bulges on the Earth. It pulls on the Earth's oceans, and that causes these tidal bulges. The tidal bulges get ahead of the moon.
This time.
Oh, wait. This we might want to stop at. You were saying?
Well, I was just going to make the point. If he's a, Genesis is history guy, and why is he talking about the moon like this? The moon is just a light. Like, it has no effect on the tidal waves or anything. It's a light, just like the sun.
That is true. Ish. But let's see if he describes the tidal action correctly here.
Bulges are always a little bit ahead of the moon.
Right.
And they pull forward on it.
Yes.
And the counterintuitive thing is when you pull forward on something in orbit, it moves out.
How's that counterintuitive?
When the astronauts want to go into a higher orbit, they thrust forward.
It picks up speed.
Out. It's a little
there's an energy transfer. That's not counterintuitive. That's very intuitive.
A little bit strange, but if you've ever played with a gyroscope, you know that when things are spinning, they don't always act the way that your intuition would expect. But the moon is moving away at about 1.5 inches a year, so it's not a huge rate. If you run it backwards, that means 6,000 years ago, it would have been something like 730 feet closer to Earth. Not a big deal, considering the moon is 248,000 miles away. What's 730 feet among friends, right? But if you run it back...
Drink!
Okay.
Good heavens, this is another one that is just a settled matter. They've worked out in great detail how the moon has moved out from the position very close to when it was formed at the time of the big Mars.
Muted yourself.
You're muted. RJ, you're muted. There you go.
There we go. I thought I'd clicked on it. This is a settled issue in modern real normal science about how the moon has been receding over billions of years, and they can work out that they've even been able to confirm the tides that existed in ancient times, hundreds of millions of years ago, when the moon was much closer to the Earth, billions of years ago, to where they can actually calibrate the lunar tides that were formed because of that closer gravitation. And so he's just basically blowing smoke rings about how much the moon has receded in the 6,000 years part. He forgets all of the rest of the science that's worked out about the exchange of angular momentum and all that other stuff. And so long as it's only Jason Lyle up there in front of his little thing making his pontification statements, it sounds very convincing, but it's antiquated science.
Indeed. Not hearing a lot of objections from his audience either. Okay.
Right on this,
why would they know?
Because if you're running the movie backwards, as the moon gets closer, the tidal bulges get bigger, and it gets closer, and they get bigger, and it gets faster. You see, and it dives in at 1.4 to 1.5 billion years. So the Earth and Moon would have been in the same place at the same time, and that's not good. And that happens at 1.4 billion years. And that may sound like a lot, but my secular colleagues believe the Earth and Moon to be 4.5 billion years old. But they can't be older than 1.4 or 1.5 based on the recession rate. So it's just an indication that their worldview isn't correct. It doesn't make sense of the evidence. Comets are made up of icy material, and they orbit the sun in elliptical paths. They tend to go very far away from the sun, and then they come close and they whiplash back out. And when they're far away from the sun, their icy material remains icy material. When they come close to the sun, ice close to the sun, that can't be good. That icy material is blasted away from the nucleus of the comet. It's vaporized. And that's actually what forms a comet's tail. That's dust and other material and ice being blasted away by solar heat and radiation. So every time you see a comet, it's getting smaller. And by the way, that's why the tail always points away from the sun, regardless of what direction the comet's moving. I don't know which way this one's going. It might be going that way. Who knows? But the tail always points away from the sun for that reason. Every time you see a comet, it's getting smaller. It's losing mass. And it can't do that forever because it has no source of new mass.
Of course, there are new comets.
And we estimate that a typical comet
where
can last
the
no
Oort
longer
cloud, I want to see what he says about that.
years maximum. And some of them much less than that. I used the SOHO spacecraft in my doctoral dissertation. And one of the things it can do is it's designed to look at the sun. And one of the things it can do is it can block the actual sun and look at the outer atmosphere of the sun, the corona. And because of that, it's very good at spotting comets, because comets get really bright when they get close to the sun. Hard for us to see them because of the solar glare, but SOHO is designed for that. And so SOHO has discovered over 1,000 comets, and I've seen them because I've used the spacecraft in my research. And I've seen comets that have gone behind the sun, and that's it. They're totally obliterated in one pass. They don't even survive. Interesting. So I know that they're short-lived. They can't last millions of years, let alone billions of years. Now, my secular colleagues believe the solar system is 4.5 billion years old. So why do we still have comets? It's kind of like if you walked into a sauna, nice and warm, and you see some ice cream cones there just starting to melt. You know they haven't been there very long, right? Comets are sort of the ice cream cones of the solar system. They are.
He had to dumb it down to that level for his audience. Ice cream cones in a
Yeah.
sauna. That's
I mean,
sad.
he did compare Jupiter to a potato.
That's true. But albeit a big
Near the
potato.
Oort cloud, he must know about it. I'm sure he's going to dismiss it, but I'm waiting with my anvil.
Which they call the
RJ
Oort cloud.
clearly
Oh, he just said it.
Cloud. That is an invented idea to try and explain why we still
Oh, it's an invented idea.
have comets.
Unfortunately, the latest Hubble data has actually observed pieces of the Oort cloud. There was just a the last couple of years on that one. You're behind the data curve, Mr. Blue Shirt.
So it's a made-up thing that we've observed. That's all. He's not wrong. He's just
That's the problem, is that pesky little secular science, which is like 99% of the scientists
You see, it was at first just like a mathematical possibility, and then we saw it.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, it's now fact.
Indeed. Not to this fellow.
I'll tell you, as time progresses, you're going to find a gray-haired, assuming he doesn't use the gray stuff on his head to keep him looking that way, but you're going to find him down the road where he's going to be pointing to the Oort cloud as another example of God's divine providence for generating things, and he'll try to figure some way to explain why the comets are coming in and that yet they're still only 6,000 years old. They'll find a way to rationalize it, because remember, they know what must be true.
Yes, indeed.
And it will be funny when I'm 65 and he's still trying to do that.
Millions of years old.
Well, we've already seen it with plate tectonics, because creationists hated continental drift back in the 1960s and 70s, but they found finally that it was kind of a way to wriggle around the mess that they were digging themselves into on the flood. So modern creationists actually accept ridiculous funhouse fast continental, which has no support geologically, but nonetheless they have it as there. So they've adopted the very thing they were insisting didn't happen before.
Entire plates of the crust just moving at like 80 miles an hour.
Oh, literally. I made a little joke in Dynamania that you should get all the creationist lawyers together, Philip Johnson and Wendell Bird and all that, and they could do a class action suit against God to sue on behalf of the Harappa culture of India, who apparently went completely extinct when India slammed into the continent, and all the little Harappans died from whiplash.
Instantly. Neck snapping death.
There's this vast reservoir of
class
potential comets out there
action,
orbiting way beyond where we can detect them. And every now and then one of them is thrown into the inner solar system, becomes a brand new comet. Pretty clever. There's no evidence of an Oort cloud.
Drink, he said, way beyond where we can detect them, but we can detect the comets from the place that we can't detect.
Yeah, and their orbits are indicating that. That was another reason why they could infer the existence of the Oort cloud even before they were able to observe it with the newer telescopes and the instruments, because of the orbits of the comets. And once they get into the solar system, they can work out all of these little things. For somebody who claims to have been using the science tools here, he seems to have managed to miss an awful lot.
I think he needs to go back to like 5th grade astronomy classes and, read the books actually that they give you.
He's got
not
one
just
book.
read Spider-Man comic books or something like that.
You'll find it in textbooks, but you won't find it in the actual universe. Not yet, anyway. My secular colleagues have a lot of faith in these kinds of things. Spiral galaxies. Now, not all galaxies are spiral. Some have more of an elliptical shape, but a lot of them are spiral. And these spiral arms rotate differentially, which means
guys know
the
where this
inner
is going,
portions
right?
rotate fast, as indicated by the arrows. The outer portions rotate slower. And so what you would think then is the galaxy would have to be twisting itself up. It's winding itself up.
Okay, another old crappy argument. And what the hell's the name of there's a galaxy. You know, the argument is that they're pressure waves that just distribute the stars in those patterns. And it's too late. I can't remember the name of the galaxy. There's a backwards one that's spinning the wrong way. That pretty much blows this whole thing. No, it's not. It's not going to wind itself up and look like a little ball.
No, this guy has not been festooning his audience with source citations to where anybody could fact check this argument. This thing is dead on the data-o-meter, where there's no way of he's not even bothering to offer source citations for any of this stuff. And the problem is that in his other stuff, he often doesn't offer source citation. That 2007 thing that I linked up to that was from the creationist book didn't have a damn source in it that related to actual science material that you could check.
Look, we let it go.
So
Yeah?
I'm going to go ahead and cut out. I got to get some sleep.
All right, very good. And I hope watching this fellow has put you in a nice falling asleep immediately mood.
Well, I've got a finagle with all the Band-Aids now. I've already burned through 2 boxes.
Okay.
Wait, we were allowed to cut ourselves tonight?
Oh, no, it's brain hemorrhaging.
Oh.
Good night, Sean.
Yeah.
Good night, guys.
Good night, Sean. Have a good evening.
Or
I am leaving too.
All righty. Do have a joyous evening. And he was still babbling about spiral galaxies. How long did we have? I stopped it now, but...
Nah, don't stop it. It's fine. Let it go. We're good.
Particular colleagues have to figure out ways to
The
make
power
new
bubble
spiral arms, as the
with
old
him.
ones are wrapped up beyond recognition, spiral density waves and whatnot. But it's just easier to believe that the galaxies are the age the Bible indicates. That makes sense of their structure. You might notice, too, that these spiral arms have kind of a
It's
bluish
easier to
tinge
believe
to
a
them
lot of things. It doesn't make it true.
of blue stars.
It's easier to believe that
relative-
my neighbor absolutely loves me. I know he doesn't.
The youth of the universe, because blue stars cannot last very long. They expend their fuel quickly. Blue stars are the most massive, most luminous, the brightest stars out there. And because they're giving out their energy so quickly, they're spending it like crazy. They can't last very long. They run out of fuel very, very fast. Now, they have the most fuel, right, because they have the most mass, but they expend it even quicker. They're kind of like the SUV of the star world. They have a big tank, but they get very poor gas mileage, and so they can't go very far. They can't last very long. The hottest,
Oh, I'm
brightest
glad he
blue
had that
stars can't last
analogy.
more than about a million years.
Because I was not understanding it up until then. But
It was very helpful, I agree.
yeah,
All over the
it
universe.
really helped bring me in.
And my secular colleagues have to believe that, well, they obviously have formed there recently, but no one's ever seen a star form anywhere.
oh, we're
That's a lie.
behind the data curve again. They can actually see star formations nowadays. I see the papers popping up all the time. You need to get past the ICR reading list once in a while.
I know that's true only because of the images I download from Hubble and James Webb and stuff like that. Like,
More, if they're looking at a particular blue star, the only ones that you'd be able to see close up would be in our own galaxy. But we can see star formations, Orion Nebula, and all of that stuff. Star formations, and the bit they can see the gas, the big fields that are forming the planetary systems. They can find all possible stages. This is like transitional forms in biology. Every possible stage of stellar evolution that you need to see, we can actually observe that with the damn Hubble and these other telescopes. The ones that look at X-rays are even neater because you can see a lot of the stuff in X-rays that you don't need to see in optical. And boys, so this is just really dated material. It'd be fun if he had done this with an astronomer who's higher up on the data grade than he is, to be able to lean over once in a while and say bullpucky.
Indeed. I have stopped it because this slide says astronomy reveals creation. It sounds like he's getting ready to give us a serious explanation of things. Here we go.
Don't really have a good.
I don't know. I've been burned by this guy in the past.
Yeah, me too.
The uniqueness of the Earth is another issue where my secular colleagues have not quite caught up to what the Bible teaches. Science confirms that the Earth is unique among the worlds of the cosmos.
No, it doesn't. No.
It's designed differently than these other worlds. The Bible indicates that God formed the Earth to be inhabited, and that's something that he didn't do apparently for the other worlds in the universe.
That's also something he didn't do well. We can't live on like 90% of our own planet that is designed to be inhabited. I am now
but the
suddenly
Bible
okay
doesn't
with heckling this
them.
guy.
They don't count.
In fact, if you think about it, Earth is 3 days older than any other planet in the universe.
Yes,
right?
please think about it. An amount of thought.
Objects,
Any.
the sun, the moon, the stars also were made on day 4. The Hebrew word kokab, which indicates star, would include planets as well. So everything else was made on day 4.
All right,
It's
okay,
special.
dude, look.
It's unique. The other worlds of the solar system,
Yes.
The point he's missing here is,
Yes.
did you have no evidence of that, my dude? He's just saying it because they've heard it before, and so they feel comfortable around the same information. But he has not once definitively proved with like math or like some type of video, even a goddamn time travel machine. He's got nothing.
Except this quote from the Bible.
For him, all he needs is the Bible quote. Isaiah saying it makes it true because this is literally the word of God. End of argument. To the extent that he wants to toss in some sciencey stuff, he will and does, but he never needs to prove, especially to his audience, any of the Bible material because that can never be not true for them.
Well, that's not how the truth works. I'm sorry.
Generally
Well,
not.
it is over in Bible land. That's exactly how the truth works for these people.
It's not that way. All of Bible land is wrong.
First off,
You got it. You got it.
First off,
that's the downside.
first and only off, Bible Man has land in Bible land, and Bible Man is always right. Willie Ames Bible Man, not the new Bible Man. I'm talking old school Bible Man.
Gotcha. And did you notice the slide that I stopped it at a while back said that astronomy pretty much is the evidence for all this stuff. And since that point, it's just more biblical quotes.
Yeah, but no, like he said that Earth is unique, right? But he did not. He said it's unique from other planets, but he did not lay out the criteria by which it's unique. And we've discovered several other Earth-like planets, right? So, like, how is it unique?
He never explained what makes an ugly galaxy. So
that's true.
He's not gonna. He just dangles these things around as though they mean something, and then he moves on. If he spoke in gibberish when he uses a term he hasn't defined, it would be more obvious. Because if he was going to be saying that obviously the Earth is intended for Glurgleflip, it would be more obvious that he hasn't defined the word. But he uses words that have kind of generic meaning, and we get lulled into it because of that.
Not designed for life. Kind of like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, right? You got these ones too hot, that one too cold, that one just right, because God made it for life. How about that? That's what we'd expect based on biblical creation.
Oh, God,
this raises
this
the
guy.
question, and what about extraterrestrial life? I've already alluded to that. My secular colleagues have always expected to find life in space. It's a big universe. Life's just an accident. It evolved here, probably evolved elsewhere where the chemistry was right. And that motivates a lot of the space program, unfortunately. Now, we've made wonderful discoveries despite that unbiblical motivation. But see, I would not expect, on the basis of Scripture, there to be life out in space. And I'll grant the Bible doesn't say directly that there's no life in space. But
Okay.
So he's about to say that his God made 90 million light years of observable universe, and we are the only things in it.
That's what he's saying, pretty much.
I want to slap this guy like through 7 walls, dude. It's not possible.
I wonder.
Wait, 7 walls at once, or you want to do it like RoboCop, where you throw them through one wall, walk in, pick them up, throw them through the next wall?
That would be cooler. That would definitely be cooler, I think.
Imagine more like Dragon Ball Z, where like I punch him one time and the dude just flies through like a mountain, you know?
Like a Mortal Kombat fatality. Like, I got you. Just blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Finish
yeah,
it.
you know, just like, you know, I want and done.
All right, so
I think that I think it's really telling that he just said the Bible does not say directly, and then you stopped the video. Like, you're right. The Bible says literally nothing directly. I mean, except that you shouldn't boil a baby goat in its mother's milk. It was very specific about
and don't
that.
eat shrimp.
Yeah, the important
Which,
stuff like
by
that.
the way, is
Yeah.
sinister. Yeah, and fucking delicious.
I wonder if he's violating scripture by having mixed fabric. In
Also,
his
he
shirt,
cut the hair around his ears, and he shaved his beard. Look,
Yeah, this guy is really looking like a heretic to me.
yeah, dude,
Yeah.
look, God exists and hate this guy.
And he's objecting to let's just see. Yeah, no alien, no life anywhere but on Earth. Didn't we find amino acids on a comet not too long ago?
Yeah.
Oh, those amino acids are just dime a dozen.
Yeah.
Those pop up in comets, in meteorites. There's a whole slew of and more complex molecules in that as well. They can detect them now. There was one just a paper that they detected one of the precursors to biosystem molecules in a distant star that they've just been looking at in one of these stellar nebulas that's starting to form a solar system. So they're all over the place. Now, it's fair to argue that the odds are that particularly post-bacterial life is comparatively rare in the universe. But comparatively rare means, it's not anywhere likely to be close enough to get in a spaceship and run there often. But still, you've got hundreds of billions of galaxies, so it's probably fantastically abundant. It won't make any of the evidence for evolution go away, and it won't make the Babylonian tales that are embedded in the book of Genesis any less ridiculous because of whether or not there's life on Alpha Centauri or not.
Gotcha.
The Fermi paradox.
Oh,
Because
Fermi
the fact
paradox.
is, everywhere we've looked in the universe, we find it's designed to do what God has designed it to do, namely to bring him glory, but it's not designed for life. My secular colleagues continue to expect life in space. They continue to be disappointed. Fermi was a scientist who was very good at being able to do these quick calculations in his head or on
He
the back
said the
of an
universe is
envelope,
designed to bring him
give you an order of
glory.
magnitude.
Yeah.
You know what's designed, like, when Trump designed Trump Tower to bring him glory, half of the building was his name, okay? If the universe is designed to bring God glory, it's clearly written in a language we don't speak.
Estimate. And at one point,
Well,
he blurted out,
God makes personal appearances only in burning shrubbery and relatively rare instances of things, and occasionally on pieces of toast. But putting any of the other signature bits around there, like monuments and that, apparently he's too busy tilting with the axis of gas giants in the outer solar system.
and people, they had to track him back. What are you talking about? He said, well, he'd done this little calculation in his head. If the universe is billions of years old, which he believed it was, and if life's just an accident on Earth, it probably evolved elsewhere too. And statistically, it probably evolved some places before it evolved on Earth, billions of years earlier, which means there should have been other civilizations that have come and gone and should have already colonized the galaxy. But the galaxy isn't colonized. And so where are they, was his question. Why is it we don't find any evidence of these past civilizations that have become spacefaring and colonized the galaxy? Where are they? It's a problem in the secular view. I want to suggest it's a feature for the biblical view. I find things like Star Trek very entertaining, but the biblical universe, the real universe, is the biblical universe. That's just the way it is.
Is it? Citation, please.
Starlight.
And amount of evidence,
spend some
please.
time on this one because this seems to be a big problem for a lot of people in terms of embracing what the Bible teaches. It really shouldn't be, but
here we go.
Because of the weakness
Is
of our
this
faith
how you make
sometimes
arguments?
we
You
need a
just
little
say
more.
you're right.
Distant
and then
starlight really is
move on.
not a problem for young universe. What I'm talking about here is the fact that we can see these galaxies that are billions of light years away. And when I use the term light year, that is a unit of distance, not time. A light year is about.
Oh, he finally said light year. Woo! He said it. He finally said light year.
6 trillion miles. Okay, and so when I
Yeah,
say
but
the
he said
universe
it's
is
not a unit of time because he has to fit his narrative for a 6,000-year-old universe.
Indeed.
Oh my God!
billions of light years in
It's
size,
not
that just means it's really
possible.
big. It doesn't mean
He
it's old.
literally-
People hear
Let's see how badly he blows it.
the word year in there and they think that Well, doesn't it have something to do with time? Well, a light year is the distance that light under normal circumstances would travel in 1 year. And so
Under
you'd
normal
think
circumstances.
if these galaxies are billions of light years away.
Drink, fucking
Okay.
drink. He just said the distance, the space through which light can traverse in 1 year.
But that's
That's
also
a measurement of time,
Yes.
also, idiot.
Yeah, but he said supposedly.
No,
okay.
it is.
There was a
because he's
disclaimer.
gonna- Fuck off.
His little shoe to drop is that the speed of light was varied,
Mm,
sliding all over the scale. This was one of the tricks that Lyle attempted to do to resolve the problem by adjusting the speed of light. The problem is that he could never pull this little magic trick off without bumping into a whole host of preposterous conclusions, not least of which is E equal mc squared.
Hmm.
They would take light, billions of years to get from there to here. And obviously the light
Yes.
has got from there to here because we see them. And so doesn't that prove the universe is billions of years old? And this has come to be called the
No!
distant starlight
Oh
problem.
my God, no!
But
No!
I want to give you what I think is a solution to this. There's actually a number of different ways to resolve it, which is interesting. And of course, God has access to solutions that we might not have even thought of or even considered. He's not bound by laws of nature as we are. But I do want to point out that some of the proposed solutions really don't work. And I mention this because sometimes people will come up and say, well, have you thought of this? And yeah, we've thought of that. And there's a reason it doesn't work. Some of the simpler solutions that people think of really have been investigated and they don't pan out. The idea that the distances aren't real, maybe the galaxies are all within 6,000 light years, it's not realistic. Even our own galaxy isn't within that distance. These distances, I won't go into all the details, but there's good science to support the fact that these are at incredible distances. The idea the speed of light was much faster in the past, I think that was very worthy of consideration. I'm glad that they looked into that, but I think there's compelling evidence that it was not faster in the past. The speed of light is linked into other properties in nature. It sets the relationship between, for example, between electric fields and magnetic fields. It
Hence
sets the
his
relationship
inability to
between energy
resolve
and
the question.
mass.
Right.
And so if you tinker with the speed of light very much in vacuum, it might not even make atoms possible. So we like the speed of light the way it is. Light was created in transit is one that I want to spend a little more time showing you why I don't believe that's a good idea for starlight. People
Okay, it was obviously accidental. I'll send you $2.
Dude, what?
point
Dude,
out
it was
that the
not
universe was
accidental.
made-
I had to type in my credit card number.
Okay, that's far from accidental.
I did not
Sure.
accidentally reach across the desk and grab my credit card to register a $2 payment.
in the sense it was functional. Adam was made as adult. He didn't have to grow up from a baby. And if you assume he grew up from a baby, you'd conclude the wrong age by looking at him. And that's true. That's certainly true. And so people have said, couldn't starlight be that way? Couldn't it be that God made the beams of light, the star, connecting the star to the earth? I think not. And the reason is because it would require God to create fictional images
What?
and movies.
Drink.
And I want to show you what I mean.
Okay.
Did he just say that it's possible for God to kind of like hook up the light to the earth, like a phone jack or something? Just plug it in there.
He said that was, some people were trying to push that, but he's now saying why he doesn't think that's the case, which is good because that's not the case.
Okay.
So, let's
Because if you if like a phone plug, you just gotta just plug it on in there. Do we have light? It's like, no, dude, no. No.
mean by this. Here we have supernova 1987A. There was a star in one of the Magellanic Clouds, and that little star right there in 1987 decided to blow itself to bits. Very sad, but it's a supernova, and so that star blew up. Now this star is in one of the Magellanic Clouds. It's over 100,000 light years away, let's say 170,000 light years away, something like that. And today, it looks like that. We see expanding star guts, what's left of the star expanding off into space. Now, if you say, well, when did that happen? Now, the secularists would say, well, 170,000 years ago, and the light just got here in 1987. And if you say, well, no, the reason we're able to see that is because God made the beam of light already on its way. When did this happen? Well, if you believe in light in transit, this didn't happen. It was just a picture that God made in a beam of light about 6,000 light years out that finally reached the Earth in 1987.
With
If you
all the
believe in light in
stars in our
transit,
galaxy, that's a
this star
lot
never
of bit
existed.
of strings
That
of light
explosion never
to God
happened.
to
By the way, this
manage.
doesn't exist either. These are just pictures that
Exactly.
God put in a beam of light. And that really bothers me. It's not that I don't think that God
Retarded.
has the power to do that. Of course he has the power to do that. The question is it consistent with his nature to do something like
bothers
that? I
him.
don't think it is. And if I don't think God would create light with fictional information.
So that he can't accept. Okay.
He might. Be careful,
Yeah.
because how do you know I'm here right
All
now?
right, drink.
Right?
Oh,
I mean, how
okay.
do you know God?
Who is he to fucking arbitrarily just decide what an omniscient being can and cannot do?
He's got the blue shirt.
Yeah, that thing looks like seriously starched.
If his God can just do things, break laws of physics all over the place, but he's got to make sense for the light beams. No, you're already using magic. Continue to use magic, sir.
Consistency.
To
I'm with
be
you.
fair, there's a little teeny slice of Lyle's brain that recognizes that what he's attempting to do, that he's attempting to mangle a set of data that is never going to fit a young Earth framework, a young chronology framework, that you've got events that we're seeing, supernovas, colliding galaxies, things that take an enormous amount of time, a whole series of events. Somehow or other, there's something that's uncomfortable for him as somebody who looks through the telescopes and sees the data to suddenly make everything window dressing and special effects. And he recognizes the problem in that. And that's the same problem that the geologist Snelling gets into in the geology frame. They've all recognized that there's way more data out there than they can cram into the box. He's having to face the problem really directly because I love the fact that he keeps on using seculars. There are functionally creationist astronomers that are very religious, but they're using the standard astronomical framework. So to call them secularists, that the people at the Vatican Observatory are a hotbed of secularism, is a nasty little insult that he's tossing off because it sounds congenial to his church audience. But I'm terribly sorry. There are religious scientists there. This is not secular versus non-secular. This is data fact versus cranial blockage of the rectum.
Indeed. Oh, and by the way, yes, I do notice the chat. Okay, moving on.
Boom! In your
We hear you
face,
too,
random
no problem.
case.
God made the sound an inch away
Oh, that even rhymed.
from your ear.
Yeah, I'm a poet and I
No,
didn't
don't
even know
think
it.
that God makes fictional pictures for us. So if light in transit is true, then none of these things have ever actually existed. But we do see these things. And I think there's a better answer anyway. One of the ones that I thought was a little more plausible, I think it's not the right answer, but I want to mention it because at least it deserves consideration. Dr. Russ Humphreys has pointed out that time can flow at different rates under different circumstances. Einstein discovered that. And Humphreys says, well, maybe that's the solution to starlight. Maybe that clocks on Earth tick slower than clocks in the
Okay.
That is true under the influence of gravity.
universe. And
the irony is that if poor Lyle is already standard explanations for young Earth creationism and to resolve the astronomical data, it's like drowning time if he tries to accommodate relativity theory too, because there it's even more of a mess. So he's just, I feel sorry for this poor little schlump on alternating Tuesdays. The fact that he's got such
But
mountain to climb and no way to get there.
But RJ, he's about to try to talk about gravity indirectly without mentioning gravity or relativity, and he's just going to keep digging himself into these holes, and I'll just keep laughing and laughing, and his audience will wonder why.
And we also have trying to figure out how the young Earth creationists are not the richest oil executives because of their flood geology finding the oil ahead of the secularists. The same thing goes for the astronomical community. The people doing the work and building the complex instruments and sending the probes out don't pay diddly squat attention to young Earth creationism because it's a complete waste of time.
Indeed.
About this, it's an interesting model. I haven't seen the math work out in a way that actually solves distant starlight, though, but he continues to work on it, and it's interesting. I'm going to suggest that the solution may involve, I'm going to give you what I think the answer is. I think it involves the one-way speed of light.
Aha.
And that is the speed of light.
One way? What are
trip,
you
as opposed to
talking? What
bouncing
the
light off a mirror, two-way
fuck?
trip.
Yeah, it takes
The speed of light
the
in
light
vacuum.
speed turnpike, and you get on the toll road that allows the light to go one way only.
Okay.
Is 186,000.
Yeah, but the speed limit on that turnpike is not C.
Let's give it some rope here.
Yeah,
Let's give him some rope.
This should
How much
be
rope are
interesting.
going to give this guy?
What? As
1,282.
much as he needs to make the argument. Where is the force or substance or like patch of space or something that the light is going to have to interact with to slow down and then inhibit it on the way off of the Earth?
Well,
Maybe he will reintroduce the ether, and it is highly viscous, like old
Yes!
mayonnaise. that you have left in the
Medieval
refrigerator.
science!
All right,
The
let's.
friggin' ether, dude. Yes.
We got to hear this though. Here we go.
2 miles per second. Very fast. But that is a round trip average speed.
Uh-huh.
And what I mean by that is if we wanted to measure the speed of light, here's how we could do it in principle. We could build a very long hallway, okay, 186,000 miles long. We'll pretend we have government funding so we can waste it that way, okay?
Oh
and
my
we'll
God,
put it
this
out there.
asshole.
And so I'm going to stand over here on this end with my flashlight. I'll have a mirror at the other end, or another flashlight, either would work. And what I'm going to do is when the clock strikes noon, I'm going to send out that, I'm going to turn on the flashlight for just an instant, send that pulse out, and it'll reflect back. And as soon as I see the reflection, I'm going to look at the clock and see how much time has elapsed.
Oh
And if we
my
were to- if
fucking
we were to
god!
do this, we would find it takes 2 seconds for light to go out.
The guy has an atomic clock in his
And
pocket.
so it's traveled a distance of 186,282 miles twice. It's taken 2 seconds to do that. So the average speed is 186,282 miles per second. That's how you get the speed of light, and that's what we would find. Most people assume that it took 1 second to go out and 1 second to come back. But we don't actually know that, do we? All we know is the total time is 2 seconds. It could be, hypothetically, the case that the light zips out and takes all of 2 seconds. Maybe it takes no time at all for it to get out there, and then it takes all of 2 seconds to get back. That's a possibility. Or maybe it's the reverse. Maybe it takes all of 2 seconds to travel out there, and then it zips back instantaneously. And people have said, well, why? Is the mirror affecting it? No, it doesn't have to be the mirror. You could even use another flashlight out there. And when your buddy sees the beam, he turns on the return trip. It could just be that the nature of space is such that light propagates at a different speed this way than it does that way.
Dude, is he fucking
So
retarded?
why would it do
Oh
that?
yes, oh yes.
Well, there are certain crystals that do that, where the speed of light's very
I
different.
really
And it could be that the vacuum
really
of
wanted
space
to
is
get
like
the
that.
memo
The
on
point
this
is,
one.
we don't know.
That Nobel Prize better be
You see where
dusted
I'm
off
going
for
with this,
this
because
guy.
if
These
this
guys
is
are
the
live
case,
wire.
if light, when it's moving away
Dude,
from
I'm
me,
trying to give this guy
is
as
slower,
much
and when it moves
rope as
toward
he
me, it's
needs.
much quicker.
So I'm
than
running the
average
fuck
speed.
out of rope,
That would
dude.
solve
I
the
want
distance
to. I want to
problem,
see it keep
wouldn't
going. I want to.
Because I don't have to
handle
send
the
light out to
rigging on
galaxies with
a old clipper ship.
Jesus.
I want to see it keep going. I want him to just be like, it could be that the flashlight is made of jelly beans and click,
Maybe
starlight
the
and
light
happiness.
It could be
it
malicious
wiggles
space
one
gnomes.
direction. It doesn't wiggle coming back.
It could be malicious space gnomes who are just, attacking light beams as they pass by going home.
It could
I
very well
wonder,
be.
I wonder how many jabs at the government he's going to throw in too. It could be that when I click this button here, the government wastes another more of your tax dollars. Don't pay taxes.
Hey. Sub-039 says PhD in fucking astrophysics. I love it.
It
I
only has
love
to
it,
make
dude. It's, oh my God.
a one-way trip. It
I
only
clearly
has to go
went to
from
school for the
there to
wrong
here.
thing. Like you could
But-
clearly just
so
sleep
I'm
your
hoping
way
that this
through
will be the case, but
astrophysics and
hoping
get a
for something
doctorate.
Dude, I can do Carl Sagan's job, no fucking problem. This shit is
Right.
easy.
Now, wait a minute. Aren't these two mirrors that he's got around an angle? I don't think the light would be. Look, we've got another guest. There we go. Look at that. Another guest. What could be better?
Cultster join. Hello, Cultster.
Welcome.
Also, Sa, you're presenting to everybody in case you didn't know. Down there in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Click here to return the video call when you're ready to stop presenting.
Right.
Just so you know.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, of course.
All right, here we go.
But we have just witnessed weapons-grade idiocy, you guys.
Oh yeah.
make it so.
Really?
We want to see if we can do an experiment to measure the one-way speed of light. So how are you going to do that? How are you going to measure the speed of light just on a one-way trip and not a round trip? Well, you can't use a mirror anymore. Instead, you got to use two clocks. You got to use one clock to tell you when to start the light pulse, and then another one to record when it impacts. Yes? So I'm going to stand over here. When this clock strikes noon, I send out the pulse, and my buddy's over there with his clock. And when he sees the pulse, he looks at his clock, and you're thinking that'll say 1 second past noon. Yes? Well, I tried this in my office. I don't have a long hallway, but I have the distance between my watch and the clock on my phone. And I turned on the light right when it hit noon, and the light beam went over to the phone. As soon as the phone lit up, I said, 12:05. It takes 5 minutes.
Really?
Right?
What the fuck?
I think you've got way.
See what I'm saying?
What the heck?
He's already,
Wait. First of all, can you guys hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, well, second of all, that is dumb as fuck. You cannot use your own phone as a fucking timer.
I measured the speed a lot with my hall clock there, and I waited for the little bell.
Listen,
I mean, we do actually have atomic instruments that can measure fantastically small amounts of time, that can measure the vibrations on atoms. I think the stuff that he's got available in his little hall there at the ICR is maybe not so good at measuring the speed of light.
Dudes.
Okay.
He's an astrophysicist. He must have a lab somewhere where this shit can just be done.
The famous ICR Institute. Yeah, forget all that CERN and all that stuff, that costs all those billions of dollars. The legacy of Henry Morris lives on in Texas.
Dude,
listen. There's an episode of the Animaniacs.
Okay.
Stick with me; it'll pay off, hopefully. Where they meet Einstein, and Einstein says, "Okay, I'm going to have to measure the speed of light," and he goes over to a lamp with a stopwatch, turns the lamp on, then stops the stopwatch and goes, "Ooh, that's fast," and then puts it down. That was a joke. This man just straight-facedly did the exact same thing in his office.
And he's
I'd love to doctorate.
In what direction is light uniformly skipping along really, really fast and then doing the slows in one direction only, or is it radial? Has he really thought this one through? Does the light know? And then it's going really fast, and then it goes, I'm on the return trip, so I'm slowing down. There seems to be a whole layer of thinking about stuff regarding this hypothesis that I'm not entirely sure Jason did, along with working out using the little stopwatch to calculate it.
Indeed.
All right, guys. Okay, so let's just give him some more rope here.
All right.
Kind of undo some more rope.
How many times are you going to let him wrap this thing around his throat? I mean, that last thing.
I think he's gone beyond wrapping it around his throat. He's now working on the wrapping it around his balls and any other extremity that could be dangerous to do that
I feel like that last statement was him like carving his name into the rafter, kicking the chair over, and he's swinging desperately, hoping we're just going to let him die. But no, we just keep playing it.
Keep playing.
As much rope as he needs to. Okay.
To be fair, when I first watched this video, I watched this ages ago, and I couldn't stop laughing. But this guy, he sounds like a nice guy. He sounds likable, but he's just such a fucking idiot. And he calls himself an astrophysicist.
Yes, he does.
I want to see like a Neil Tyson just talk to him for 10 minutes, please.
Yeah.
Well, just
please, someone help your colleague, please. He's retarded.
All right, and all right, here we go.
Obviously, the clock on my phone is 5 minutes fast. I do that so I don't miss staff meetings.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
So only if the clocks are synchronized could you measure the speed of light this way. And by the way, they have to be exactly synchronized because the speed of light is very quick, whatever it is. We know it's quick.
No shit.
So if that other clock is just a little bit off, you'll get the wrong answer for the speed of light. It can be very wrong.
No,
you say, no problem. We'll make sure the clocks are synchronized. That turns out to be very difficult to do. with clocks that are separated by a distance. Normally, the way we synchronize clocks is with a radio transmission. In fact, my watch does that. It receives a signal from the radio transmitter in Fort Collins, which is tied into the atomic clock in Boulder. And every night it receives that signal. I never have to set it. It's pretty neat. But it's not maybe exactly synchronized, right? Because that radio pulse actually takes a little bit of time to travel from the source clock to the receiver clock. Radio is fast, but it's not instantaneous. So, well, maybe we could do, of course, if we knew the amount of time it took the radio pulse to travel from here to here, we could subtract that off. We could push that clock forward a little bit. Well, how fast does radio travel? You know the answer to that?
See.
It travels at the speed of light.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, no shit, but, you're a fucking idiot.
I don't think he understands basic fucking particle physics. Massless particles, immediately upon their existence, accelerate at the speed of light. Always. All of them.
Yeah, but if that were the case, how would he be able to measure it with a flashlight and his cell phone? Which he says he did, and he's got a very reliable face.
It's because you fucking can't, you ignorant. Oh my god.
Okay. This is gold. All right.
Yeah. Oh, and everyone, just in case you want to know, this video was suggested. You suggested this one, Calcer.
I did. I suggested this one, and I watched it 2 years ago. And for fuck's sake, I couldn't stop laughing. I was like, for fuck's sake, this guy.
Listen, I have to apologize because early on I may have dozed off. I may have got up and did some other things because I was very bored. And you know what? That's on me. This is clearly gold. I feel like I owe everybody an apology.
This is I have to write down because I got to find out whether he's pursued this one-way speed of light thing. Somehow I kind of doubt that he's been able to progress very much farther than this.
No.
The other interesting thing is that when we talk about the speed of light in that, when we're talking about mass doing that sort of thing, is he arguing that mass can do that as well? But if so, because of relativity theory and E equal mc squared and all of that, that objects that would be traveling slower would have a different energy ratio. I mean, there's just a pile up of connections that are implied by this that I'm not sure he's getting into based on his stopwatch theory of measurement.
Indeed. Well, you know what? The wrap up may be coming. He may explain it all in the next. We've got like 8 minutes left. Let's see what happens.
So that's the very thing I'm trying to measure. That's the very thing I don't know is the one-way speed of light. We know radio travels at the speed of light because if I have a radio transmitter and a flashlight, they'll hit the wall at the same time. We know that. We just don't know what that speed is. My point is you'd have to already know the one-way speed of light in order to synchronize clocks by radio transmission.
Oh, we know.
Now, I don't worry that my clock is maybe slightly behind the one in
you
Boulder,
missed the memo.
because I'm not trying to measure the speed of light. But if you're trying to measure the speed of light, they have to be exactly synchronized. Some people, for some reason, have thought if you put the radio transmitter in the middle, that'll solve it, right? Because then you send the radio pulse in both directions, and both clocks are synchronized to noon at the same time. It doesn't matter what the speed of light is, but in fact it does, because that presumes that the speed of light and therefore the speed of radio is the same in both directions. If it's different, then this clock gets set to noon first, and that clock gets set to noon second. See, noon there, and then noon there. And they're not synchronized. See, so you can't synchronize clocks that way. It doesn't work. One last resort. We'll synchronize two clocks in the same place. That's easy to do because you can see they're both reading the same time at the same time. Then we'll move one of them or both of them to opposite ends of the hallway. Yes? That should work, right? It doesn't, because according to Einstein, motion affects the passage of time. The very act of moving the clock has caused it to become desynchronized from its buddy. Now,
all right,
it turns
RJ.
out there's...
Okay, RJ, before you explode.
It's kind of obvious that if you had a central object and you move both of the clocks at exactly the same rate farther apart, they should in fact stay equally synchronized because they would be moving at the same relative velocity to one another. So they would stay in synchronization. We can, of course, measure this stuff in terms of relativity theory because if you take a synchronized clock and put its mate up into a Concorde and fly it around for a while, they can predict exactly how much it will be out of synchronization because of relativity theory. So it seems that the physicists who work with clocks that measure billionths of a second are already able to do a lot of that stuff. And your inability to work out an experiment where that would work seems to be your problem, because you can't figure out that the Earth isn't 6,000 years old. So you're already hampered at the gate.
Now, like okay, I don't think he's serious. I think he's a con man. I cannot grasp the stupidity. Like, how can you measure light with a fucking wristwatch? No. I fail to believe that he's serious. He must be a con man.
I think he's dead ass serious. You guys, I think he is dead serious because he's already accepted magic as a viable hypothesis.
Yes,
Once you accept magic, no rules don't apply to you anymore. He can just say like gnomes made gravity somewhere in like a workshop.
Has he not looked into the fact that that we have tested the speed of light with atomic clocks over and over and over again? It's somewhere around 299,792.458. It's somewhere around there, or like we can even get like really exact. But we keep on repeating the same scientific experiment over and over again. It's always the same result. He comes along and he's like, "Oh, it's this," and it's like, that doesn't make everything else that before that, like, that doesn't falsify everything else. You're using the wrong equipment.
I don't know. Have you seen these graphics he has?
Yeah.
Colzer, you have to think biblically. If you have the kind of mindset that can believe his young earth creationism, this guy will hunt around for whatever it takes to arrive where he wants to be. It reminds me of the old Krell machine from Forbidden Planet that supplies all the energy required. And his brain will stop at whatever point it needs to where he feels comfortable about it. So he can recognize some problems, like with the variable speed of light theory, and he can go just as far as he needs to with his little stopwatch before he realizes that the Institute for Creation Research ain't going to shell out $10 million to build a piece of equipment to test this thing. And if they did, what will happen when they get the wrong answer and find out that his whole theory is wrong? No, they don't allow that. So it's much easier for his brain to go into the comfort mode and stay with the stopwatch.
I know. I haven't watched this video in 2 years, but I do remember it's kind of iffy. And this part was the one that made me crack up. I could not. The rest of the day. Oh god.
Isn't it?
The rest of the day, I was rolling on the bed, burning with laughter.
All right, let's see what else he's got.
An equation that can tell you how much the clock has become desynchronized, and you could compensate for it. And in that equation is the speed of light. Yeah.
No shit.
Isn't that interesting?
What?
Actually, it's the Lorentz contraction equation, but that's something else.
God doesn't want us to know the one-way speed of light. Here's what the implication of this is. Apparently, it's impossible to synchronize clocks without knowing the one-way speed of light in advance. And it's impossible to measure the one-way speed of light without synchronized clocks. So you see, we're stuck in a permanent catch-22.
No fucking drink, goddamn idiot. You are stuck in a conundrum. Nobody else. Everyone the fuck else in your fucking field fucking gets it. Fuck you.
Now,
the
a little F word. Kids listening to us.
Yeah. Frog. Stop saying frog.
Absolutely.
The guy who gave him or signing his doctorate should be in prison.
Yeah, agreed.
The college that taught this guy should be burned to the ground. Yes. Right?
Now, I've never heard it. I've never heard it used for this purpose. But his whole problem with the one-way speed of light thing. Do we not? You know what? No, maybe it wouldn't apply. I was going to say
just continue.
Yeah. I was going to say with the extremely distant satellites we have in constant communication via radio waves, and all right, here we go.
Fundamentally impossible to measure the one-way speed of light. It cannot be done because you need to have synchronized clocks, and the only way you can have synchronized clocks is if you already knew the one-way speed of light. It cannot be done. Now, when you have a catch-22 like this, it suggests that the question may be a bad question, a faulty question. And so I'm going to conclude that the
Don't you
one-way speed
think?
of light is not actually a property of nature at all, but it's something that is a convention. A convention is something that we choose and we all agree to it and we stick with it and it works. Like driving on the right side of the road. That's a convention. We all agree to that and it works.
God,
No.
But,
Okay, down
you know,
here in Australia, we drive on the left side of the road, so you're fucking wrong. All right?
Exactly. Drink.
Yes, RJ, what do you got?
To point out something that is just, it's so preposterously obvious that it tells you a lot about Lyle's mindset, that he can't see the illogic of his own position. He talks about this notion of the one-way speed of light. You've got the mirror, it bounces off of the mirror, and it's supposedly going faster one direction than another. How does the mirror, the beam know that it's now on the other trip?
Because
as
of the
far as
ether,
the light
RJ.
beam is concerned, a one-way trip.
We've already
So
established
it's not like,
it's
oh
because
gosh, I've suddenly turned around and I'm moving in a different direction now. So now I will behave differently because Dr. Lyle, from his spot at the church pew, has figured out that my behavior must change in order to make some grasp at straw to allow him to explain why effing Andromeda Galaxy looks the way it does.
Yes, and he's mentioned that he's gone actually for quite a few minutes now how difficult it is to measure the one-way speed of light, but he's given not even the slightest hint of why we would suspect it to be different than its speed doing a round trip. It's
different, so that the light that suggests that something is really far away or very old conveniently knows it's the right direction to go in order to do that. This is ad hoc, a special pleading on a scale that makes Jeranism seem rather tame.
Listen,
that's not possible, RJ.
I need to know.
Okay? The one thing that moves in one direction faster and slower in the other direction is Lyle's brain, and right at the moment he's
which is
non-motion.
Which is worse, that the Jeranism thinks the Earth is flat, or that this asshat thinks the fundamental laws of physics change arbitrarily?
No. Don't forget, Jeranism thinks the Earth is flat.
I'll tell you exactly. Because nobody in Congress pays attention to flat earthism. But the guy in Montana that just got elected to the Senate or the House of Representatives believes in the worldview of young earth creationism that Mr. Lyle does. So he's going to be making decisions based on the air quotes logic and reason. So there he makes a difference.
Yeah, but the thing about Jaren though is that he still doesn't believe it. Like, because remember, you're gonna have to throw out gravity or the astrophysics. I mean, you're gonna have to throw out all the stuff that Lyle is to be fair, is probably educated about. Jeranism, with Jeranism and flat earthism, you're gonna have to throw everything out that Lyle believes. Everything. Obviously, that Lyle's kind has an effect on the country, but I'm just saying that Jeranism is a little bit more extreme because there is some stuff that Lyle knows about that. I mean, I was watching earlier about, he talks about, planets and stuff. I'm like, he sounds like a reasonably intelligent guy, but this is fucking bullshit.
Yes, it is.
Well, remember, the young earth creationists can adopt all sorts of elements. They're essentially intellectual parasites. They draw off the work of others that when it's congenial to them, if the data can be somehow fit into the worldview, they're okay with it. And they can be sciencey as all get out. When anything conflicts with it, like the fact that Andromeda Galaxy is 2 million light years away, ergo we're seeing it as it was 2 million years ago, that completely doesn't fit into the young earth framework. And so then his little brain goes into rationalization mode. It's the same thing that's happening with Jaren. He is focusing on a different set of data. He's looking at the geography matter, but the methodology they're using is absolutely identical. It's non-negotiable truth, like a dervish, until you get dizzy enough that you think you understand the problem.
Should we be happy or sad that I suggested this video?
Well,
oh, I was fascinated. I hadn't watched a Lyle video before. I read some of his stuff that he's put up as text, and so I hadn't actually watched the. I haven't actually watched the organism in his native habitat. Now that I have, it's rather extraordinary indeed to see how someone can talk so long with their head rammed firmly up their ass.
I need to know. Okay, does this video end with the cameras zooming out and it's just a bunch of chairs with like stuffed animals in it?
That is gonna be amazing.
Then his mom is just like, "You did good, son," and then he puts the helmet back on and the mouthpiece in, and he climbs back in the cage.
let's see. We don't have much left. We've almost survived this. Here we go.
Other nations, they pick the left side of the road. And as long as they all agree to it, it works too. You see, that's a convention. It's not. It's if we asked them, well, what in the universe, what is the correct side of the road to drive on? That question is meaningless because it depends on what country you're in. It depends on where you're at, or how many. If I had a table that's, let's say it's 1 yard long, or maybe it's 3 feet long, which is it? Is it 1 or 3? What's the right answer? Is it 1 yard or is it 3 feet? What's the answer?
Yeah,
right? It's both, isn't it? Well,
put the rabbit down, Lenny.
1 or should it be 3? Well, you tell me what you want. You tell me if you're using yards or feet, and I'll tell you what the answer is. The one-way speed of light is like that. We get to choose what it is, and that tells us how to synchronize our clocks. And then when you measure the one-way speed of light with your synchronized clocks,
Wait, pause.
Okay.
The only audience is Ken Ham furiously masturbating.
I had to step out for a second. Was Jason talking about the contraction due to relativity?
No,
it's not.
Oh, what a pity.
Listen.
Actually, of course, as objects move closer to the speed of light, they literally shrink in the direction of motion, just as time slows down in the direction of motion, and their inertial mass goes up, all according to exactly the same formula, which is the Lorentz contraction equation, square root of 1 minus v squared over c squared, blah, blah, blah. And so there is a physicsy stuff here, which is an astrophysicist he should be vaguely aware of, but I'm afraid he's not applying it in his wonderful, fascinating, incredible one-way time. Is he going to have a yield right-of-way theory of light too? A stop sign theory of light? Perhaps a detour ahead? I think he's on the detour ahead theory of light.
Oh, look! Crypto says we caught Pastor Blue Shirt in the O-face. There's a game we have not done since our friend Canadas has been gone. But anyway, here we go. We're closing in on it here.
Found it was whatever you chose. Yeah. Okay. So the lightning bolt strikes exactly in between these two clocks. And we're going to decide that the speed of light's the same in both directions. We can do that. We're going to choose that. And then the two clocks are synchronized. But if you want to make a different choice, you can do that too. And you can synchronize them differently. That light requires the same time to traverse the path A to M as for the path B to M is in reality neither a supposition nor a hypothesis about the physical nature of light, but a stipulation which I can make of my own free will in order to arrive at a definition of simultaneity. We choose the one-way speed of light, and that tells us how to synchronize clocks. And that quote is by Albert Einstein.
Is this guy a Q? Is he part of the continuum? Is that why he's talking like he could just change fundamental?
Could never quite give up on being a hologram, so he's come out into the real world like Moriarty.
So he's
not obviously not obscure.
No, certainly not. Right, just change the gravitational constant of the universe. Here we go.
Recognize that the one-way speed of light is not something you measure, it's something you choose.
Oh, by the way, I saw and talked to him at Reason Rally, by the way. Here we go.
Which means I can choose it to be something very different than what most people do. In fact, I can choose
the
speed of light to be infinite when it's...
Like, how long before you just collapsed into just a puddle of drool and sleep?
Not this guy, Q.
Oh, John Delancey.
Yes, there's a video on the channel of his. He announces himself. Hi, I'm John Delancey, and I am a god.
Oh, that guy is awesome.
Yes, he is. All right, moving on. Here we go.
Directly toward me, and half C when it's moving away. And the reason I picked those two values, it has to average to C. It has to average to the speed of light. That's the round trip speed. Okay, but you get to pick.
And why is that, Mr. Physicsy guy?
I think a while back Sub explained that in the chat. Something about Jason thinks it might. I think that was the explanation.
The average will tell you what the return trip has to be, and it turns out it's 1/2 c if you make it infinite in one direction, because it's a time averaged. And one of the reasons I choose this is because it solves the distant starlight problem. But another reason is because all ancient cultures implicitly used
in
this
air quotes.
Yeah.
definition. They didn't subtract off light travel time because they didn't know what the speed of light was. When you saw something, that's when it happened. And so I'm going to suggest that the distant starlight is solved if we use this. I'm going to call it an anisotropic, which means different directions, anisotropic synchrony convention, or ASK. Using the anisotropic synchrony convention, light takes no time at all to get from distant galaxies to here. And according to Einstein, I'm free to synchronize clocks that way. And the distant starlight problem, therefore, is solved if the Bible's using that convention too. And so that's really the only issue, is the Bible.
Oh, the Bible.
Now there you go. Wow, I always wondered what Moses had up his sleeve, and now that we know that he's using the ASC convention, that explains everything. I thought he was using AC versus DC.
God.
Explains
I
it
thought
all.
it was only a stone tablet.
Were led astray. Martin Luther, if he had only known of the AC convention, he wouldn't have had to have nailed the 95 Theses to the wall.
I kind of wish this guy was correct, because then interstellar travel would be a lot more easier. Like, come on.
Yeah. Rubber band spaceships, I think, if we only went the right direction. No way different than it is the other way, just so long as it averages out to C.
Indeed. Maybe that's how Jaren's baseball made it to Alpha Centauri.
Remember, he says it's entirely arbitrary, so I guess we get to speak whatever version of the speed of light we feel like, so long as it averages out to C.
That does...
C relate to vitamin C. Can we find a way of dealing with those two on a spherical Earth, where the ASC convention causes us to allow pineapples and orange juice to determine the speed of light? I think we have a whole new branch of biblical physics that can open up wonders. Magnificent. I'm sure the Trump administration will be willing to finance it.
Odds are. There's a lot of money left over from the canceled climate research.
And widows and orphan aid in the medical department. There'll be plenty of money left over for his better stopwatch.
It's this anisotropic synchrony convention, or is it using Einstein convention, or is it using something else? It's using some convention because it's talking about time. So there's some convention there. I think the Bible is using this anisotropic synchrony convention. I'm going to show you why. Well, I already mentioned one reason. All ancient cultures used that. And the Bible is meant to be understood by everybody, not just by modern physicists. But if you take a look at Genesis 1:14 and 15, then God said, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years." And later we find this is the sun, the moon, and the stars also, the greater light, the lesser light, the stars also. He says, "And let them be for lights in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth." And it was so. It's that last little phrase, "and it was so." What was so? Well, they gave light on the earth. You see, God created them to give light on the earth, and apparently they immediately did, and it was so. That suggests to me that the Bible's using this anisotropic synchrony convention, whereby light reaches the observer in no time at all. And according to Einstein, that is a legitimate convention. And by the way,
it's the year 726.
I'm not suggesting that the alternative, that the speed of light is the same in all directions, is wrong, because that's like saying a table, it's wrong to say it's 1 yard long. It's actually 3 feet. They're just two different ways of measuring things.
Wait, isn't this been your entire thing? Like,
yes,
your whole thing, like, is to say that it's wrong. I think he's melting my brain.
All right.
Lyle's brain came pre-melted, so he's way ahead of you on that. If you just think of a lump of taffy that's been left out in a heat wave for a while, and then it's poured through the ear, that's kind of what's going on in there, because I cannot account for such brilliance in any other way.
You have also just described my prom night.
There we go.
And so I'm going to suggest that the convention the Bible uses allows light to get here instantaneously. It's not a problem. There could be other answers to that, but this is one that works and nobody's been able to refute it. So I think it's a pretty good model.
Oh, really?
Oh, I refuse.
Well,
I
It
refuse.
works in the sense that I've removed all obstacles to it by vaporizing as much physics as I wanted to. Yeah, it works that way. Yeah, I think I can prove the Titanic never sank too if I can get rid of every piece of information that doesn't say it did.
we've seen that the glory of the Lord's revealed in the heavens. We've seen that the Bible's right when it speaks on the basics of astronomy. We've seen that the Bible is right when it talks about the age of the universe, and there's evidence that lines up with that. We've seen that
What's
the
this
Earth
we
is
stuff?
unique,
I ain't seen
as the
none of
Bible
that.
indicates, and we've seen that starlight is not
He's
a problem
talking to the other
for
thards in
thousands of
the
years.
audience.
In fact, it can get here instantaneously if you're using the anisotropic synchrony convention, and there are other ways to do it as well. There are a number of resources we brought with us out in the back table there. Please avail yourself of these. It's hard to get good resources on astronomy from a Christian perspective. And so
They
take
are
advantage of them
$40
while
a
they're
piece.
here. We have Taking Back Astronomy.
I will
My
sign
book
them for
covers,
another 40.
Much of the topics that I talked about today and a few that I didn't. And it's
I will buy.
it's a beautifully illustrated
Pause
book.
pause right there.
Yep.
I will buy 10 of those and burn them in gasoline and then send them to the moon. All right? No. And then wait. And then I'll send a laser up there, let it reflect off, and then confirm that the speed of light is fucking 300,000 kilometers per second. You fucking idiot.
Alrighty. 3 minutes
Just
left.
promise me, Calzer, you buy my book first before you buy the 10,000 copies of his.
Yeah, but don't burn RJ's book. It's actually good. All right, here we go.
Look, it's got full color pictures and everything, and some people have thought it's a kid's
Oh,
book
really?
because
Full
of those
color
but,
pictures.
it's not.
That's
My
amazing.
theory is adults like
Wow,
pictures
if it's got color pictures, it must be true.
too. And pictures are
That
one way
just
that
goes to
the,
reinforce what I said earlier, that his entire argument is, look at a pretty picture. Look at a pretty picture.
Look at it.
Okay, and here's my argument.
Take some keys. You ever? Oh dear. Yeah, I must say that I'm disappointed with poor Lyle because when I see somebody that has an advanced degree in a discipline where they're really trying to dislodge a vast array of science information, I expect him to at least bring the tools onto the field and start swinging as hard as he can, not doing stuff where he only has he says, here I have a bat and I will swing at the ball, except he fails to bring the bat or the ball, and he's just describing how well he can hit the ball with the bat he has virtual. That's what we're getting here. This is hilarious.
Now, are we sure he said that it had color pictures, or did he say suitable for coloring?
No, it's right, pretty color pictures, and I
right.
bet it's got reds and blues, and I bet it's got graphic things. I bet every one of the images that we've seen in his science-y reporting so far will be in that book, because I don't think he's going to waste those graphics if he paid for the rights to them. He's going to make sure they were in his PowerPoint.
Probably.
universe declares God's glory is by.
We've seen 3/4 of the content of his book already, and 100% of non-existent sources.
So we should probably not race off to Amazon and try and get this immediately after the video. Okay, all right. Good that we cleared that out. Important safety tip. There we go.
Its beauty, so I think you'll really enjoy that. Stargazer's Guide to the Night Sky is one of my latest books. This is basically how to enjoy the night sky better. If you've ever wondered how to, what constellation is that, and where's Saturn this time of year, and should I get a telescope, and if so, what kind should I get? All that.
If
where
it's
did
like
that
your
leave my
charts.
speed measurement, fuck off.
What
I
you can see
won't
in a
waste my night stargazing. I'd start with your book.
telescope, what you can see naked eye. You said, I don't have any intention of getting a telescope. It'll still work for you. It'll still show you what you can see naked eye. Created Cosmos. This is the planetarium show I wrote for the Creation Museum. We have it on DVD and Blu-ray out there.
Oh,
It
okay,
is
now
really
he gave his
exciting.
cut to Can-Am after the show. Okay.
It takes you on a journey through the universe, all from a biblical perspective, and shows you how it confirms God's glory.
It's
Also, I've
nice
got my
to know that
tape here.
Scientific Twaddle is now available in Blu-ray.
Indeed. Modern miracles.
Perhaps they still have a VHS because some of his audience is quite retarded. So
Hey, no, I think Blu-ray is described in the Bible, is it not? All right.
Absolutely, yes, as we know, and his shirt is in fact a demonstration of the existence of Blu-ray at the time of Genesis.
tonight, but if you wanted to really
Might as
defend
well.
the Christian faith effectively, there's a book I've got called The Ultimate Proof of Creation, and it's going to show you how you can how to.
Okay, here's what I want to know: who told this guy about shameless plugs? At the at the end of our, he's doing it. He's doing a shameless plug right now.
Think properly,
Yeah, but
really, and how to.
That's the reason for his conference.
Yes, that's our.
Yeah.
Look
Yeah,
at
why
shit
does he get to go first? I'm
Holy
top
stuff.
of the list. I should have gone before him.
He's not even on the list.
Debate these issues in a friendly way with your secular friends, and how you can demonstrate beyond any doubt that the Christian worldview is correct. It really is an ultimate proof of creation. Discerning truth is on how to spot logical fallacies in evolutionary arguments.
Okay, we
Okay,
get
okay.
it. You're fucking.
Okay, Brian,
You want
that
to
is
sell books. You want to make money off your bullshit. I think we get the point.
Brian. That is not an image I want stuck in my head.
Evolutionists commit errors in
That
reasoning,
Lyle is not going to mention the reptile-mammal transition in his book.
fallacies left and right, and we let them get away with it, and we really shouldn't. For their own benefit, we need to politely point out that these are fallacious, the arguments they're using. We have a book called Creation Basics, and there's two versions of it. There's the Guide to Creation Basics, which
Why are we
is
even
the,
listening to this? We'd have a lot more fun just reading the public chat.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I love the one about there, the Joseph's Technicolor coat there. That's the Blu-ray mentioned in the Bible. I like that one.
All right, this is
Crypto and secular is an evil word to these nuts. Why? That's the kind of the generic thing. Remember, the entire universe consists of young Earth creationism and not young Earth creationism. So even if you are a devout Christian, if you don't buy into their young Earth dogmas, you are not a real Christian. You're a compromiser. You've accepted all of that stuff from the secular atheist worldview that's just trying to ensnare you in apostasy and false belief. That's how their apologetics goes. So that's why that theistic evolutionists and old Earth creationists get just as much scorn heaped on them as full-blown atheists do. And of course, the bugbear secularists. And it also reinforces their insular worldview, where the rest of the world is benighted and following all on their bad methodology and their terrible myths about the age of the Earth being old and the Earth being billions of years forth and so on. And ultimately, if you go back to the old Henry Morris brand of creationism, and you still get this at the Ken Ham or Kent Hovind version, is Satan is the one that's responsible for evolution and secularism. This is all part of Satan's plan to keep people away from salvation, which you can only get by buying into the specific worldview that he has. That's the frame they come from. And you get it quite a lot in the Kent Hovind brand, and you get it quite a bit in the Answers in Genesis stuff if you veer off of the science posts and go over to their stuff on salvation and Satan and all that. You know, it's good to Google that and see where their opinions are.
All right. Hey, look, the movie ran out. Nice.
Oh darn! Someone must have forgot to pause it.
Oh, I truly hate when things of that sort happen. Well, I believe that it's been 3 hours. We're not going to start up another video now.
Well, to do an hour video wasn't too bad for 3 hours, you know.
No, but admittedly, we let quite a bit of just babble go by because there's no need to refute
So-
babble. Do you have something, Cole?
What did you think of that? Like, I watched that a few years ago. I couldn't stop laughing. What did you guys think? I wasn't in for the entire thing. I only came in for the last part. What did you think of that, guys?
For movie night, it was pretty good. He made enough of wacky ass assertions to.
I don't know what to think anymore, man. I'm done.
Like, on a scale of like, out of all the movies you ever done ever in movie night, how bad do you think that was?
We've had worse.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah, he's just a boring talking head. And the photography was fairly adequate. You know, he had his little PowerPoint blurbs up there. I'm looking at it in terms of how it reflected young Earth creationist content. And I was amused at the number of concessions that he threw in where he would be trying to account for why the starlight problem can be resolved. And he effectively admits that a whole slew of theories as to why we can see Andromeda Galaxy if it's 2 million light years away, he acknowledges are completely twaddle. And so then he decides to come up with something that is twaddle cubed. It was really quite revealing to see the this guy's brain will go to try to accommodate something that he's never going to be able to fit all the data in effectively, let alone come up with an experiment. And I guarantee you, if he did an experiment where he was actually trying to test the differential speed of light going out and back and discovered that it doesn't work, he's not going to suddenly decide to become a secularist on that basis.
Odds are.
Yeah, but seriously, don't let him play with matches.
Or
I
sharp
mean-
objects.
Or scissors, or bastard swords, cutlasses, butcher's knives. No.
Don't let them play with crayons or
Oh,
golf
you-
balls, basketballs,
An
Like
astrophysics degree.
a stopwatch and a flashlight.
You know, the
All
old line, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. I think in Lyle's case, it's okay.
I mean, listen, say what you want about Kent Hovind and Eric Hovind, right? When they present this kind of claptrap, and I know I've probably said this before, but they present it with an amount of charisma, right? Like laughing, engaging the audience and stuff. This guy presented this entire speech with the engagement of a 12-year-old apologizing for breaking a neighbor's window. Like, he just sat up there and just read and then walked off stage. Like,
Well, he was doing the Mr. Rogers presentation.
no,
That's
see, Mr. Rogers had charisma. Mr. Rogers came out. He was like, "Hey, I'm gonna be your neighbor," and I'm like, "I don't know, man. And Mama said I'm not supposed to be neighbors with people that wear sweater vests." And Mr. Rogers is like, "Nah, but I got puppets, right?" So then he had some puppets. This dude had none of that. He had nothing to engage me other than these absurd things coming out of his mouth.
You have to realize he's coming from the techno geek, science geek framework of modern creationism, which is coming, it's percolated up over the last 20 or 30 years. Your Kent Hovinds and your Ken Hams and Eric Hovind, who's in that same tradition, they're coming from the actual preacher point of view. The creationism is just the particular tropes they're drawing off of. They're not themselves scientists. They're effectively grassroots preachers, and they've studied the preacher style, particularly in that kind of holy roller fire and brimstone stuff that Southern Baptists and that would deal with. He's coming from a techno geek thing, and he's talking to suburban audiences in their very modern looking stuff with the rock musician stuff, where they probably got the band on the Sunday services that play the forbidden rock music, except it's now Christian. And he's coming in as the little science geek guy who is not him. He's as much faith as your Ken Ham types, but he doesn't come from a preacher's perspective. So he's going to be as boring as your high school science teacher would be.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm a techno geek. Put a couple of beers in me, and I can get everybody at the bar engaged in Firefly. Like, I can get everybody at the bar engaged in why I pick Ken, Ryu, and Juggernaut when I play Marvel vs. Capcom. Okay, I can engage people, and I'm a techno geek. I don't understand his complete lack of anything. I mean, there's no word for being that dry and that empty.
Yes, there is. It's called being a young Earth creationist.
Have you ever attended a geology conference?
Yeah, and those are really, really boring. But the things coming out of their mouths are really interesting, and they're not really trying to sell you. Like, they're not really trying to sell you anything absurd.
Who doesn't have the science data behind it. So now you see the emperor without the clothes on, whereas we tend to cut slack on the techno geek who's actually telling things that are true. And so we bypass the fact that he's got kind of a droning delivery and so forth and so on. There are people like Jason Lyle all through the creationist subculture, and we only now start seeing them when they do videos like this. Clearly, they thought this was entertaining enough that it warranted making a video.
I'm just surprised that when they tuned out to the audience that there were still people awake. Like, as boring as geology conferences are, or in my case, the Citrix and Net Security conference I went to, right? I mean, these are still... like, these are super nerds up talking about super nerd stuff, but at least you can see that they're getting excited about it. even though they have no way to communicate that to other human beings, they're still excited. And I didn't see any excitement from this dude. Like the most excitement that we got out of the guy is when we paused on his on his O face, and there was a legit discussion as to whether or not that was his O face or his constipated face.
All right.
Like that's the most excited the boy got. So,
indeed, but there was a certain humor to it. He wasn't trying for it, but it seems to have turned out that way.
Well,
Anyway.
remember he mentioned potatoes and that, so long as he's dealing with the grocery lovers in the audience, he's going to be hitting some home runs.
Indeed. All right. Shall we move on to Plug and Pug?
Plug and Plug.
Yes, and plug. Please.
Absolutely. All right. Eat, you're up. Tell us how cool you are.
I'm not, but you know who is? Desertphile.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
Yeah, somebody didn't add the Desertphile link to the thing. I figured, man, you'd be a bro about it. Add the Desertphile link to the thing. Maybe people can go subscribe to his channel because he's great. The dude's crazy, right? He first off, he's really smart, but he doesn't sound smart, but he is. And he decided to chase elk off of his property by attaching elk antlers to the front of his 4-wheeler and chasing them. Oh, the man's great. Oh, he's good. Because
he did it while screaming "Gravity, you fucking retards! Gravity!"
So that's now. Last time, try to consider the amount of time you bastards called drink. That's why I didn't get the link in last time.
No, I get it. It's fine. You hate me. You send me daily messages reminding me that you hate me, and that I'm only here because I bought RJ's book. It's fine. That's cool.
Those are accidental messages I send.
Oh, so you're butt hating me? Is that what you're doing?
Yes. All right, Calter, tell us what you do and how cool you are and all that sort of thing.
All right, I am a blogger. I have a blog called The Moderate Atheist. I don't really talk about atheism. I more just do the flat Earth because Young Earth Creationism is more about biology. But of course, when it's stuff to astrophysics, like the shit we just watched, I like to maybe go into that, maybe like all the distant light and how that disproves Young Earth Creationism. But mostly I focus on the flat Earth. All I have on the blog, my blog is fairly young. It's only about maybe a month old, and all I have is flat Earth debunking stuff, and really that's it. That's all I really have to say. Really.
All right. Well, Call, if you don't mind, we got the chat window open in the back.
Yep.
Send me a link to the blog, and I will certainly include it. And very good. All right, Dev, it's you. Tell us how cool you are and what you do.
Oh, what, me? Oh,
yeah.
Jeff the other day, I got into a discussion with a flat earther, and he was trying to tell me that the South Pole doesn't exist, and that for some reason that the sky from the northern hemisphere and from the southern hemisphere rotate counterclockwise because they operate on like a counter rotating mechanism or some shit. And I was like, dude, you're fucking retarded. Just call anybody from Australia and just have them take just ask them why it does that, and they'll probably fucking tell you the exact same thing I'm telling you. And he just was not buying it. But then, to my vindication, an Australian came in the forum and said, dude, you're fucking retarded. Deverik's right.
Hey, victory.
Like, yes.
Nice.
Vindication.
Well done. All right. Down the list. Let's see. Who's this guy? RJ. You're up. Tell us how cool you are and what you do.
I wish I were cool. I wish I were solvent. I wish I were able to guarantee that I'll have electric in the next week. I've got websites. I've got books out. They're really good. I'd love to be able to have some of my posthumous fame to enjoy while I'm still alive, but I'm having my doubts. I'm trying to vaporize creationism at the source methods level in a way that has never been done before, and I need all of your help to allow me to keep on doing that. I'd love to be able to buy some new paper every once in a while to print on and eat.
Eating is good.
I like it more than I have.
Tag me in. I got to jump in on this. I just finished RJ's book. It is good. It's actually a really good. It's kind of it took a minute for me to get into it, but once I got into it, man, I was really burning through it. Great book. I recommend everybody buy it and read it, and don't tell RJ that you bought it and that you're reading it, or he will keep asking you about it, and then you will be quizzed on it. And after about 3 days, when you're waking up and RJ's leaning over your bed asking, "So, how did you? How far are you in the book?"
And that's the novel, the science book, which you have as well. By the way, I will demand, you are going to put a rating up on Amazon on it, are you?
Yes. Okay. I agreed to do that last time you broke into my house, only on the condition that you stop drinking the milk. Okay. Because you never put it back right, and you put it in the door. You don't put it back in the fridge.
I know.
You put milk in the door, it goes bad quicker.
Exactly. Well, by the way, I should point out we're talking about my mystery science fiction steampunk retelling of Around the World in 80 Days. We're not even talking about Evolution Slam Dunk, my masterpiece opus, where I vaporize creationists, every one of them, on the reptile mammal transition. That's my tour de force. So everybody who buy both of my damn books, you won't be disappointed, and I need the royalties.
Very good. All right. Let us move on to Tao. Tao, tell us about you and your latest video and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm the creator of the little series called Flat Earthers Full Retard Mode. They are a comical compilation of Flat Tards reflection, and I released episode 12 yesterday about the Flat Earth Stoners. So you might have a look and have a little laugh. So, that's it.
Indeed. All right. Very good. Well, that's everybody who has survived till the end of this film. Let us. Let's make sure. Here we go. Definitely don't want to forget this. And then we'll move on to the pug. Everybody, lots of cheers for David! Woohoo! Those are not lots of cheers, guys.
Listen, like he got plenty of cheers from me last time.
That's right, did. All right. That being the case, here comes the pug. Night all.
Good night.
See
That
ya.
is not the pug.
It's the pug, but we got the damn mute on. That's not the goddamn it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's it.
there he is. Go look at his little face. Go look at that little googly-eyed mouth. Oh god, he's like Pac-Man with ears. Look at him.
Oh, and everybody in the public chat, I'm sorry I wasn't responding as quickly as to your comments as I usually try to. I just have a hell of a cold. I'm barely able to remain vertical in the chair.
What Sai is saying is that he doesn't care about you in the public chat.
I did not say that at all.
But you always got me. I care about the chat.
You are that caring sort.
I had to put stuff in there, but I kept on getting that frozen screen so much I had to pop in and out to be able to see what the heck was going on, because I wanted to see what Lyle was saying, not merely hear his dribble. I want the full 360-degree Blu-ray experience.
The biblical Blu-ray.
You know, this just occurred to me. Is this a song you would listen to while motorcycling? I feel like this would be a good motorcycling song.
Oddly enough, it's funny you mention that, because yes, it is. Oh, and Fino, by the way, that was actually a picture of my dad. That was Buster on my dad's lap. Crypto. It's like a marshmallow with googly eyes.
That is so perfect.
Oh, best part of the song.
Fucking Raynard beat me to it. I was gonna say that.
It's like Ray knows me. All right, good night, all. Thanks for joining us.
Good night,
Night.
son.